Hey there, storytellers and story lovers. This is Harry's. Prepare yourselves for today's incredible narrative. What if Harry demanded justice for Sirius at age 11 and exposed every ministry crime? A quick reminder, your likes, comments, and subscriptions are the fuel that keeps this channel running. Thank you for being awesome. Let's begin this journey together. Chapter 1. The truth revealed. Harry Potter stared at the gleaming white building of Gringotts Wizarding Bank with his mouth hanging open. After 11 years of being told he was nothing, that his parents were worthless drunks who died in a car crash, he discovered not only was he a wizard, but apparently a famous one. Come on then, Hagrid said, placing a massive hand on Harry's shoulder. Best wizard in bank there is. Run by goblins, so don't try nothing funny. The interior of Gringotts buzzed with activity. Witches and wizards lined up at counters while severe-looking goblins weighed jewels and counted coins. Hagrid led Harry to a free teller. Mr. Harry Potter wishes to make a withdrawal, Hagrid announced. The goblin peered down at Harry. And does Mr. Potter have his key? Got it here somewhere, Hagrid muttered, emptying his pockets onto the counter. Ah! Here's the little devil. The goblin examined the tiny golden key before nodding. Very well. I shall have someone take you to your vault. He paused, glancing at a ledger. However, as this is Mr. Potter's first visit since coming of age for vault access, we must also discuss his inheritance vault. Inheritance vault? Harry asked. I have more than one vault. Indeed, the goblin replied, looking surprised. The Potter family is quite old. Your trust vault contains funds for your schooling. The inheritance vault contains family heirlooms and documents that, according to your parents' instructions, you may access upon turning 11. Hagrid looked confused. Dumbledore never mentioned, Professor Dumbledore is not Mr. Potter's magical guardian, the goblin cut in sharply. While he might have placed Mr. Potter with his relatives, he has no legal authority over the Potter vaults. Only Mr. Potter does. Harry's mind raced. Why wouldn't Dumbledore have told him this? I'd like to see both vaults, please. I'll take growled a voice from behind. A goblin with a particularly nasty scar across his face approached. Griphook's the name. Follow me. The cart ride through the depths of Gringotts left Harry's stomach somewhere far behind, but he couldn't suppress his excitement. After visiting his trust vault and scooping galleons into a pouch, they descended even deeper into the bank. Potter Inheritance Vault, Griphook announced as the cart screeched to a halt. Key won't work here. Need blood. Blood? Harry asked nervously. Griphook pulled out a small, ornate dagger. Just a drop on the door. Confirms you're who you say you are. Harry winced as the blade pricked his finger. A drop of blood fell onto the vault door, which shimmered before swinging open with a groan. Unlike the money-filled trust vault, this one contained furniture, trunks, weapons mounted on walls, and shelves of books and scrolls. In the center stood a pedestal with a letter sealed with wax. I'll wait outside with Hagrid, Griphook said, exiting and closing the door. Harry approached the pedestal, hands shaking. The letter had his name written in elegant script. Breaking the seal, he unfolded parchment covered in neat handwriting. My dearest Harry, if you're reading this, then your father and I are gone, and you've reached your 11th birthday. I hope with all my heart that you've been raised by Sirius and have had a happy childhood filled with love and perhaps a touch of mischief. However, I fear Voldemort's reach, and I must prepare for every possibility. If something has happened to Sirius as well, know that he was appointed your legal guardian in our will. Under no circumstances were you to be placed with my sister Petunia and her husband. If you've been raised by them despite our explicit wishes, something has gone terribly wrong. I must also tell you something vital about Sirius. If the worst has happened and Voldemort found us, please know that Sirius Black was not our secret keeper. We switched to Peter Pettigrew at the last minute without telling anyone. If we were betrayed, it was Peter, not Sirius. The enclosed memory vial contains proof of this switch. It shows your father and I performing the Fidelius charm with Peter. Any wizard with a pensieve can verify this truth. We've left instructions with Gringotts for your care, including access to suitable housing properties owned by the Potter family. Our solicitor, Edward Tonks, has all the necessary paperwork and can help you claim your rightful guardianship arrangements. Know that we love you more than anything in this world. Your loving mother, Lily Potter. Harry read the letter 3 times, hands trembling. Tears splashed onto the parchment. His parents had wanted him to live with someone named Sirius Black, not the Dursleys. And this Sirius person might be innocent of whatever people thought he'd done. Beside the letter sat a small crystal vial filled with swirling silver liquid. Harry carefully pocketed both items, then looked around the vault. He spotted a trunk marked, "Important Documents," and opened it, finding birth certificates, property deeds, and finally, his parents' will. He scanned the document, finding exactly what his mother's letter had mentioned: "In the event of our deaths, guardianship of our son, Harry James Potter, shall pass to his godfather, Sirius Orain Black. Should Sirius be unable to fulfill this role, guardianship shall pass to the following individuals in order: Remus John Lupin, Frank and Alice Longbottom, Minerva McGonagall. Under no circumstances is Harry to be placed with Vernon and Petunia Dursley." Harry's hands clenched around the parchment. Someone had ignored his parents' wishes. Someone had sent him to hell for 10 years when he should have been with his godfather. "I need to know what happened to Sirius Black," Harry said aloud, determination hardening within him. He spent another 20 minutes searching the vault, gathering photos of his parents and their friends, including several showing a handsome dark-haired man holding baby Harry and laughing. The back of one photo read, "Sirius and his godson." When Harry emerged from the vault, Hagrid looked concerned. "Yeah, we're in there a while. Everything all right?" "Actually, no," Harry replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Hagrid, what happened to Sirius Black?" Hagrid's face darkened instantly. "Who told ya that name?" "My parents. In a letter they left me," Harry said firmly. "He's my godfather." Hagrid's enormous hands trembled slightly. "Harry, Black's a murderer. He betrayed your parents to you-know-who. Killed a dozen muggles and another wizard friend of your parents. He's in Azkaban, wizard prison, and that's where he belongs." "That's not what my mother's letter says," Harry countered, clutching the parchment. "She says they switched secret keepers to someone named Peter Pettigrew at the last minute." That's not possible," Hagrid stammered. "Everyone knows Black was the secret keeper." "Did Sirius get a trial?" Harry pressed. "Is there proof he did these things?" Hagrid looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Look, Harry, I don't know all the details. That was a dark time. But Dumbledore himself testified that Black was the secret keeper. But what if he was wrong? My mother left proof. A memory in this vial." I don't know what to tell ya, Harry," Hagrid said, clearly distressed. "But this ain't something for you to worry about now. You're just a kid." Harry fell silent, but his mind raced. Something was very wrong here, and he wasn't going to let it go. The remainder of Harry's trip to Diagon Alley passed in a blur of thoughts about Sirius Black. By the time he returned to Privet Drive with his school supplies, Harry had formulated a plan. The Dursleys were frightened enough by Hagrid's visit to leave Harry alone, which gave him time to study his textbooks. He paid particular attention to wizarding law sections in magical theory and checked through a history of magic for references to trials after Voldemort's fall. What he found was disturbing. Though limited, the information suggested many suspected Death Eaters received trials, but no specific mention of Sirius Black's case appeared. Harry wrote everything down in a notebook, building a case. On September 1st, Harry pushed his trolley through King's Cross, heart pounding with nervousness and determination. Finding platform 9 3/4 proved easier than expected thanks to a family of redheads who seemed to know exactly how to access it. "First time at Hogwarts?" "Ron's new too," said the plump, kind-faced woman, gesturing toward her youngest son. Yes, Harry replied. I'm Harry. Harry Potter. The reaction was immediate, widened eyes, gasps, and the mother trying to prevent her children from staring. I'm actually glad I ran into you, Harry continued quickly. I've been trying to learn more about wizarding law. I was wondering if any of you might know someone who works at the Ministry of Justice. The mother looked puzzled. I'm Molly Weasley, dear. My husband Arthur works at the ministry, but in the misuse of Muggle artifacts office. Why would you need to know about wizarding law? Harry hesitated, then decided honesty might be his best approach. I recently found out my godfather might be in prison wrongfully. I'm trying to understand how I can help him. Mrs. Weasley's face paled. Your godfather? You don't mean? Sirius Black, Harry confirmed. My parents left evidence he's innocent. The entire Weasley family fell silent. Mum, we're going to miss the train, the youngest boy, Ron, finally said. Mrs. Weasley seemed to snap out of her shock. Yes, of course. Through the barrier now, quickly. On the train, Harry found himself sharing a compartment with Ron Weasley, who seemed torn between awe and wariness. Is it true what you said about Sirius Black? Ron asked as the train pulled away from the station. Yes, Harry said firmly. My mother left me a letter and a memory proving he wasn't their secret keeper. Someone named Peter Pettigrew was. But Pettigrew's dead, Ron replied. Black killed him. Left nothing but a finger. Harry frowned. Did anyone see him do it? Were there witnesses? I dunno, Ron admitted. Everyone just knows he did it. That's not good enough, Harry said. If he's innocent and my rightful guardian, I need to help him. Their conversation was interrupted when a bushy-haired girl named Hermione Granger poked her head in, looking for a toad named Trevor. After helping in the search, she returned and was instantly intrigued by Harry's story. That's fascinating, she said, eyes wide. I've read all about you in modern magical history, but there was no mention of Sirius Black being your godfather. Because they want to hide it, Harry replied. I think my godfather never got a proper trial. I need to find out more, but I don't know where to start. The library, Hermione said immediately. Hogwarts has one of the largest magical libraries in Britain. There must be information about trials from that period. I can help you research. Me too, Ron added, though he looked less enthusiastic about library time. Dad sometimes talks about ministry procedures. I might be able to ask him questions in letters. Harry felt a surge of gratitude. Thanks. I didn't expect to find allies so quickly. Well, it's wrong if someone's in prison without a trial, Hermione stated matter-of-factly. In the Muggle world, that's a serious violation of rights. Same in the wizarding world, Ron added. At least, it's supposed to be. As the train journey continued, Harry shared more details about what he'd discovered. By the time they reached Hogsmeade Station, both Ron and Hermione were committed to helping him investigate, though Ron warned that they should be careful who they trusted with this information. Some families were big supporters of you-know-who, he explained quietly. They wouldn't want Black cleared if he's actually innocent. And the Ministry hates admitting mistakes. The Sorting Hat's decision to place Harry in Gryffindor alongside Ron and Hermione felt like the first piece of good luck he'd had. As they settled into the feast, Harry scanned the high table, eyes lingering on Albus Dumbledore. According to his mother's letter, Dumbledore had testified that Sirius was the secret keeper. Why would he do that if it wasn't true? Had he simply been mistaken, or was something more sinister at work? Harry's gaze shifted to Professor McGonagall, who had been listed in his parents' will as a potential guardian. Did she know about this? Had she agreed to him being placed with the Dursleys instead? Mr. Potter, a silky voice interrupted his thoughts. Harry turned to see a hook-nosed professor with greasy black hair standing behind him. Our new celebrity. Yes, sir. Harry replied, trying to sound respectful despite the professor's obvious disdain. Professor Snape. Potions Master, the man said curtly. The headmaster wishes to see you after the feast. I've been instructed to escort you to his office. Thank you, Professor. I actually wanted to speak with him as well. Something flickered in Snape's eyes, surprise, perhaps. He nodded stiffly and moved away. That's Snape, Ron whispered. Fred and George say he favors Slytherin and hates Gryffindors. After the feast, Snape led Harry through the castle's winding corridors to a stone gargoyle. Sherbet lemon, Snape said, and the gargoyle leapt aside, revealing a spiral staircase. Thank you, Professor, Harry said. Snape merely nodded and swept away, his robes billowing behind him. Harry climbed the stairs and found himself facing a polished oak door. Before he could knock, a voice called, "Enter, Harry." The headmaster's office was a circular room filled with strange silver instruments that whirred and emitted puffs of smoke. Portraits of previous headmasters and headmistresses adorned the walls, many pretending to sleep but clearly watching through half-closed eyes. Behind an enormous desk sat Albus Dumbledore, exactly as he appeared on the chocolate frog card Harry had received on the train. "Good evening, Harry," Dumbledore said warmly. "Please, take a seat. I hope your first evening at Hogwarts has been enjoyable." "It's been interesting, sir," Harry replied, sitting down but keeping his back straight. "I have some questions I'd like to ask you." "Naturally, my boy. I expected you would. Why was I placed with the Dursleys when my parents will explicitly stated I should never go there?" Dumbledore's twinkling eyes dimmed slightly. "Ah. I see you've discovered your family vault sooner than I anticipated. Harry, sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the greater good. Your mother's blood protection, my mother's what? When your mother died protecting you, she invoked an ancient magic based on love and sacrifice. This protection lives in your very skin, but it can only be maintained if you reside with a blood relative of hers, your Aunt Petunia." Harry frowned. "So you decided that protection from outside threats was more important than protection from the people I lived with? The Dursleys locked me in a cupboard for 10 years. They starved me. My cousin beat me up whenever he felt like it." Dumbledore's face paled. "I had no idea they would treat you so poorly. Did you ever check?" Harry asked bluntly. "Even once." The old wizard's silence was answer enough. Harry pulled his mother's letter from his pocket. "My parents wanted me to live with Sirius Black. My godfather. The letter says he wasn't their secret keeper, Peter Pettigrew was. They switched at the last minute." Dumbledore appeared genuinely shocked. "May I see this letter?" Harry hesitated, then handed it over. Dumbledore read it carefully, his expression growing more troubled with each line. "This is indeed your mother's handwriting," he said finally. "And you say there's a memory vial as proof?" "Yes. It shows them performing the Fidelius charm with Pettigrew." Dumbledore leaned back in his chair, looking every one of his many years. "This is, most disturbing. I testified before the Wisengamot that Sirius was the secret keeper based on what I believe to be true. Did Sirius get a trial?" Harry asked, though he suspected the answer. "Those were chaotic times, Harry. Many decisions were made hastily. Sirius was caught at the scene of Pettigrew's murder, laughing maniacally. His guilt seemed undeniable. So no trial," Harry said flatly. "My godfather has been in prison for 10 years without a trial, while I've been abused by relatives I was never supposed to live with." "Harry, I want him freed," Harry cut in. "I want justice for Sirius Black." Dumbledore steepled his fingers. "It's not that simple. The ministry imprisoned an innocent man and ignored my parents' will," Harry interrupted again. "I may be 11, but I know that's wrong. I'm not asking for your permission, Professor. I'm telling you what I'm going to do." For a moment, Dumbledore looked taken aback by Harry's directness. Then, surprisingly, a small smile appeared on his face. You have your mother's determination and your father's boldness, he said. But Harry, challenging the ministry could be dangerous. There are those who will resist reopening this case. I understand that, Harry replied. But I can't just do nothing. Dumbledore studied him for a long moment. Very well. I shall look into this matter personally. The memory you mentioned would be crucial evidence. Would you entrust it to me temporarily? Harry considered this. I'd rather watch it with you, if that's possible. Of course, Dumbledore said, gesturing to a stone basin on a nearby shelf. This is a pensieve. It allows us to view memories as if we were present when they occurred. Together, they watched as Lily and James Potter performed the Fidelius charm with a small, nervous-looking man Harry now knew was Peter Pettigrew. The evidence was indisputable. When they emerged from the memory, Dumbledore looked shaken. I have made a terrible mistake, he admitted. One that has cost two good people dearly. 3, Harry corrected. Don't forget me. Indeed, Dumbledore acknowledged, his voice heavy with regret. Harry, I will help you seek justice for Sirius, but we must proceed carefully. The Ministry will not easily admit to such a grievous error. I don't care how difficult it is, Harry said firmly. It's the right thing to do. Despite Dumbledore's promise to help, Harry didn't entirely trust the headmaster to move quickly. The next morning, he met with Ron and Hermione at breakfast to update them. Dumbledore actually admitted he was wrong. Hermione asked, impressed. Yeah, but he wants to proceed carefully, Harry replied, making air quotes. That could take forever. I need to put pressure on the Ministry directly. How? Ron asked around a mouthful of toast. You're just a first year. Harry leaned forward. I'm not just any first year. I'm the boy who lived. People listen when I talk, I saw that at Diagon Alley. If I make public statements about Sirius being innocent, people will at least ask questions. That's actually brilliant, Hermione admitted. But you'll need solid evidence beyond just the memory. The Ministry could claim it's been tampered with. What about witnesses? Harry suggested. Someone must know something about what really happened that night. Ron snapped his fingers. Hagrid. He was there the night your parents died, right? Maybe he saw something. Good thinking, Harry agreed. Let's visit him after classes. Their first week of classes was a whirlwind of new experiences. Harry found himself constantly distracted by thoughts of Sirius, but managed to focus enough to make decent first impressions on his professors. Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration class proved particularly interesting, not just for the subject matter but because she was named in his parents' will. After class on Friday, Harry approached her desk while the other students filed out. Professor, could I speak with you privately? McGonagall regarded him over her square spectacles. Of course, Potter. Is everything all right? I recently discovered my parents' will, Harry said once they were alone. You were listed as a potential guardian for me if my godfather and the Longbottoms weren't available. The color drained from McGonagall's face. Yes, I was aware of that arrangement. Did you know I was sent to live with the Dursleys instead? Against my parents' explicit wishes? McGonagall's lips thinned to almost nothing. I expressed my concerns to Professor Dumbledore most forcefully. I watched those muggles all day before you were placed there. They were the worst sort. Then why didn't you stop it? Harry asked, unable to keep the hurt from his voice. Albus insisted the blood protection was paramount, she replied, her voice tight. I objected, but ultimately deferred to his judgment. Perhaps that was a mistake. It was, Harry said simply. Did you also know Sirius Black never received a trial? At this, McGonagall looked genuinely shocked. No trial at all. That's not possible. Everyone receives a trial. Not Sirius, Harry insisted. Dumbledore confirmed it last night. And I have proof he was innocent, My mother left a memory showing Peter Pettigrew was their secret keeper, not Sirius. McGonagall sank into her chair. Good heavens. This is... I don't know what to say, Potter. You could say you'll help me get justice for him, Harry suggested. You were my parents' friend, weren't you? I was, she confirmed, her voice softening. And I owe them better than I've given. She straightened in her seat, her expression resolute. Very well, Potter. You have my support in this matter. What do you need? Information, Harry said promptly. About the legal process for reviewing cases, about who was in charge of the DMLE when Sirius was arrested, about where Peter Pettigrew might be if he's still alive. Those are dangerous questions, McGonagall warned. But I'll see what I can discover discreetly. In the meantime, be careful who you share this with. That afternoon, Harry, Ron, and Hermione visited Hagrid's hut. The gamekeeper was clearly delighted to see them, though he shot Harry a concerned look. Heard ye've been a skin, questions about Sirius Black, Hagrid said as he poured them tea in mugs the size of soup bowls. Dangerous ground, that is. Hagrid, you were there the night my parents died, weren't you? Harry asked. Hagrid nodded sadly. Aye. Terrible night. Found ye in the ruins myself. Brought ye to Dumbledore. Did you see Sirius there? Hagrid shifted uncomfortably. He showed up on that flying motorcycle of his. Wanted to take ye, said he was your guardian. I told him Dumbledore's orders were to bring ye to your aunt and uncle. How did he seem? Hermione asked shrewdly. Was he laughing madly like the reports say? No, Hagrid admitted. He was devastated. Cryin' like his heart was broke. Begged me to let him take ye. When I wouldn't, he gave me his motorcycle to use. Said he wouldn't need it anymore. Does that sound like someone who just betrayed his best friends? Harry pressed. Hagrid looked troubled. Never did make sense to me. Sirius and your dad were like brothers. But Dumbledore said. Dumbledore was wrong, Harry said bluntly. I showed him proof last night. My mother left a memory showing Peter Pettigrew was their secret keeper. Blimey, Hagrid whispered. So Sirius has been in Azkaban all these years for nothing? Yes, Harry confirmed. And I need to get him out. Hagrid wiped his eyes with a tablecloth-sized handkerchief. Count me in. What can I do? You can tell your story to anyone who'll listen, Harry said. About how Sirius acted that night. It contradicts what everyone believes about him. I'll do more than that, Hagrid declared. I'll write it all down in a statement. Signed and everything. And I know a few others who knew Sirius back then who never believed he could have done it. That would be brilliant, Hagrid, Harry said gratefully. As they walked back to the castle, Ron looked thoughtful. You know, if Pettigrew faked his death and framed Sirius, he must be hiding somewhere. But where? Hermione asked. And how would we find him after all these years? Ron shrugged. No idea. But if he's alive, catching him would prove Sirius's innocence better than anything else. We need to get more information about Pettigrew, Harry decided. What he looked like, his habits, anything that might help identify him. Library research, Hermione said with satisfaction. Leave that to me. The following weeks fell into a pattern. Between classes and homework, Harry and his friends dedicated themselves to building their case for Sirius. Hermione practically lived in the library, compiling information about wizarding legal procedures and the aftermath of Voldemort's fall. Ron wrote to his father with carefully worded questions about ministry protocols for trials during that period. Harry met regularly with both Dumbledore and McGonagall, pushing them for progress. The chief warlock of the Wizengamot has agreed to review the case, Dumbledore informed Harry during one such meeting. But we face opposition from the minister's office. Why? Harry demanded. If there was no trial, that's illegal no matter how you look at it. Politics, I'm afraid, Dumbledore sighed. Minister Fudge fears that admitting such a mistake would damage the ministry's reputation. And Lucius Malfoy, who has the minister's ear, seems particularly determined to keep this matter buried. Malfoy? Harry frowned. What's his interest in this? A question worth exploring, Dumbledore mused. Though I caution against confronting Draco about his father's activities. Too late. Harry had already noticed Draco Malfoy smirking whenever the subject of Sirius came up in the common room. The blonde Slytherin clearly knew something, and Harry intended to find out what. His opportunity came after a particularly unpleasant potions lesson, where Snape had seemed even more hostile than usual. Harry lingered after class, noticing Malfoy doing the same. Got something to say, Potter? Malfoy drawled as they exited into the corridor. Actually, yes, Harry replied coolly. I'm curious why your father is so invested in keeping an innocent man in prison. Malfoy's smirk faltered momentarily before returning full force. My father simply believes in upholding the ministry's decisions. Black was a traitor who got what he deserved. Funny, Harry said. I have proof he wasn't a traitor at all. I wonder what your father is really afraid of. Maybe Black knows something that could damage your family's carefully constructed image. The flash of alarm in Malfoy's eyes told Harry he'd struck a nerve. You know nothing, Malfoy hissed, dropping his casual demeanor. My father says if Black ever got out, a lot of old secrets would come to light, secrets that would ruin certain families. But it won't happen. Father has fudge wrapped around his finger. We'll see about that, Harry replied. The truth has a way of coming out. As Malfoy stalked off, Harry felt a mix of satisfaction and concern. Whatever Sirius knew, it was dangerous enough that powerful people wanted him silenced permanently. The stakes were higher than he'd realized. October brought increasingly chilly weather and a breakthrough in their research. Hermione burst into the common room one evening, clutching a stack of old Daily Prophet issues. I found something, she announced, spreading the newspapers on the table. Look at these reports about Pettigrew's death. The only thing they found was a finger, Ron finished. Everyone knows that. Yes, but look at the witness statements, Hermione insisted, pointing to a section of text. They say Black blew up the street with a blasting curse, killing Pettigrew and the Muggles. But the descriptions of the damage don't match a blasting curse's effects. Harry peered at the article. What do you mean? A blasting curse would create an outward explosion pattern, Hermione explained. But these reports describe a crater with damage centered downward, as if the explosion came from below. Like someone blew up a sewer line. Ron suggested. Hermione's eyes widened. Exactly. If Pettigrew blew up the street himself, he could have escaped through the sewers while everyone was distracted by the explosion and deaths. That's brilliant, Hermione, Harry said excitedly. But we need more than theories. We need to find Pettigrew. If he's alive and hiding, he'd need a wizard to stay with, Ron reasoned. Someone who wouldn't notice him much or ask questions. Or he could be living as a rat, Hermione suggested. The books say Pettigrew was an unregistered animagus, a rat. Ron froze. A rat? Missing a toe on its front paw. We don't know about any missing, Hermione began, but Ron cut her off. Scabbers. My rat. He's missing a toe on his front paw. We've had him for 12 years, way longer than garden rats live. Percy found him the same year all this happened. The three friends stared at each other in stunned silence. Ron, Harry said slowly, where is Scabbers right now? In my dormitory, Ron replied, his face pale. You don't really think? We need to check, Harry said firmly. Now. They rushed to the boys' dormitory, but when Ron opened his trunk, Scabbers was nowhere to be found. He was here this morning, Ron said frantically, searching under his bed. He might have heard us talking, Hermione suggested. If it's really Pettigrew, he'd be watching us, especially after you started asking questions about him in your letters home. Harry grabbed the Marauder's map, which the Weasley twins had given him after learning about his quest to free Sirius, who, they discovered from the map itself, was actually Padfoot, one of its creators. "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good," Harry muttered, tapping the parchment with his wand. They scanned the map desperately, looking for any sign of Peter Pettigrew. Finally, Harry spotted the name, a tiny dot moving rapidly through a secret passage toward the grounds. There. He's heading for the Whomping Willow Passage. That leads to the Shrieking Shack, Ron said. We need to catch him before he escapes. We need help, Hermione insisted. This is too dangerous. There's no time, Harry argued. You go find McGonagall or Dumbledore. Ron and I will try to slow him down. They split up, with Hermione racing toward McGonagall's office while Harry and Ron sprinted across the grounds toward the Whomping Willow. The violent tree swung its branches threateningly as they approached. How do we get past? Harry panted. Fred and George mentioned a knot on the trunk, Ron replied. Press it and the tree freezes. Harry grabbed a long stick and, after several attempts, managed to prod the knot. The willow immediately stopped moving, revealing a gap in its roots. Come on, Harry said, sliding into the passage with Ron close behind. The tunnel was low and narrow, forcing them to crouch as they hurried along. Eventually, it opened into a dusty, decrepit room with boarded-up windows and shredded furniture. The Shrieking Shack, Ron whispered. Now what? A scuffling sound came from upstairs. Harry put a finger to his lips and pointed. They crept up the creaking staircase, wands drawn. In a bedroom with a massive four-poster bed, they found Scabbers cowering in a corner, looking more panicked than any normal rat should. That's not Scabbers, is it? Harry said quietly. Ron shook his head, looking betrayed. If that's really Pettigrew, he's been sleeping in my bed for years. It's disgusting. We need to force him to reveal himself, Harry said. Do you know the spell? No, but we can trap him until help arrives. They moved to block the exits, but Scabbers darted between them, heading for the door. Harry lunged, managing to grab the squirming rat by the tail. Got him. Suddenly, Scabbers twisted and bit Harry's finger hard. Harry yelped in pain, losing his grip. The rat dropped to the floor and made a dash for the stairs, but Ron dived and trapped him under an overturned waste bin. Stay there, you traitor! Ron shouted, pressing his weight onto the bin. They heard voices and footsteps rushing up the stairs. Hermione appeared in the doorway, followed by McGonagall, Dumbledore, and, surprisingly, Snape. Potter. Weasley. Explain yourselves immediately, McGonagall demanded, though she had her wand at the ready. It's Pettigrew, Harry said, pointing at the bin. He's an animagus. He's been hiding as Ron's rat for 12 years. Dumbledore stepped forward, his expression grave. Stand aside, Mr. Weasley. Ron moved away from the bin, which Dumbledore levitated, revealing the trembling rat beneath. With a complex wand movement, Dumbledore cast a spell that hit Scabbers directly. For a moment nothing happened, then the rat began to grow and change. Seconds later, a short, balding man with pointed features crouched where the rat had been. Hello, Peter, Dumbledore said calmly. It's been a long time. Pettigrew's watery eyes darted around the room, looking for escape. Dumbledore. My old friend. Thank goodness, these children have a wild theory. Save it, Harry interrupted coldly. We know you betrayed my parents. We know you framed Sirius. I never, you don't understand, the Dark Lord, he would have killed me. Pettigrew babbled. So you admit it, McGonagall said sharply. You were the Potter's secret keeper. Pettigrew seemed to realize he'd incriminated himself. His demeanor changed instantly as he lunged toward the door, but Snape's wand flashed, binding him with invisible ropes. I've waited a long time to see you squirm, Pettigrew, Snape said silkily, his black eyes glittering with hatred. This changes everything, Dumbledore said gravely. Minerva, please call Amelia Bones immediately. As head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, she should handle this personally. What about Minister Fudge? Harry asked. Won't he try to cover this up? Not if we go public first, Dumbledore replied, a rare glint of mischief in his eyes. I believe it's time to call in a favor from an old student of mine who now works at the Daily Prophet. The following morning, the Great Hall fell silent as hundreds of owls swooped in with the Daily Mail. Nearly every student received a copy of the Daily Prophet, whose front page screamed, Boy who lived captures parents' true betrayer Peter Pettigrew found alive, Sirius Black innocent ministry faces scandal over decade of wrongful imprisonment without trial. The article, written by a reporter named Rita Skeeter, detailed how Harry Potter and his friends had uncovered the truth and captured Pettigrew themselves. It included quotes from Dumbledore admitting his mistaken testimony, from Hagrid describing Sirius's behavior the night of the Potters' deaths, and from Amelia Bones expressing outrage over the lack of due process. A sidebar article titled, Justice Denied, How Many Others Languish in Azkaban Without Trials, hinted at widespread corruption and incompetence within the ministry. At the Slytherin table, Draco Malfoy looked sick as he read the paper. At the high table, most professors appeared shocked, though Dumbledore seemed serenely pleased and McGonagall wore a satisfied expression. Harry felt a mix of emotions as he read, vindication, anger at the years lost, and hope that soon he might finally meet his godfather. The whispers and stares from other students barely registered. Harry, Hermione said quietly, pointing to a paragraph near the end of the article. Look at this. Harry read, sources within the DMLE confirm that Sirius Black will be retrieved from Azkaban today for an emergency hearing before the full Wisengamot. If proven innocent, as seems inevitable given the new evidence, questions will be raised about his legal guardianship of Harry Potter, potentially challenging Albus Dumbledore's placement decisions. It's really happening, Harry whispered, his throat tight with emotion. Ron clapped him on the shoulder. You did it, mate. You got justice for Sirius. We did it, Harry corrected. I couldn't have done this without you both. Owls continued to arrive throughout breakfast, many delivering letters addressed to Harry. Some were supportive, others skeptical, and a few openly hostile, particularly those bearing the crests of old pure-blood families. You've made enemies today, Hermione observed as Harry set aside a particularly nasty letter from someone named Not. Better than letting an innocent man suffer, Harry replied. Besides, I've had enemies since the day Voldemort came to my house. The use of the name made several nearby students flinch, but Harry didn't care. For the first time since learning about the wizarding world, he felt truly empowered. He wasn't just the boy who lived, he was someone who could make a difference. After breakfast, Dumbledore approached the Gryffindor table. Harry, if I might have a word. The Minister for Magic has arrived and wishes to speak with you. Harry exchanged glances with Ron and Hermione. Can my friends come too? I believe that would be appropriate, considering their involvement, Dumbledore agreed. They followed the headmaster to his office, where Cornelius Fudge paced nervously, his lime green bowler hat clutched in his hands. Also present were Professor McGonagall and a square-jawed witch with a monocle whom Harry didn't recognize. Ah, Mr. Potter, Fudge said, attempting a smile that came out more like a grimace. Quite the commotion you've caused. Minister, Harry replied coolly. I'm just seeking justice for my godfather. Yes, well, about that, Fudge blustered. Most irregular situation. Amelia here tells me the evidence is quite compelling, but the public spectacle was hardly necessary. I disagree, said the witch with the monocle, whom Harry now realized must be Amelia Bones. The public deserves to know when such miscarriages of justice occur. Mr. Potter, I'm Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. I want to personally thank you for bringing this matter to light. Does this mean Sirius will be freed? Harry asked directly. Pettigrew has confessed under Veritaserum, Madame Bones confirmed. The Wisingamot hearing is merely a formality at this point. Mr. Black should be officially exonerated by this evening. And what about compensation? Harry pressed. He lost 10 years of his life. Fudge shifted uncomfortably. That's a complex matter, one the ministry will address fully and fairly, Madam Bones interrupted firmly. Along with reviewing other cases from that period to ensure no similar injustices exist. There's also the matter of my guardianship, Harry added, looking directly at Dumbledore. Sirius is my legal guardian according to my parents' will. Indeed he is, Dumbledore acknowledged. Once he has recovered sufficiently from his ordeal, arrangements will be made for you to live with him, if that is what you both wish. It is, Harry said without hesitation. The Prophet is calling for an investigation into how you were placed with Muggles against your parents' wishes, Fudge said, eyeing Dumbledore nervously. Most irregular, Dumbledore. I made a grave error in judgment, Dumbledore admitted. One I deeply regret. Harry felt a surge of respect for the headmaster's willingness to admit his mistakes publicly. When can I see Sirius? He asked. He's being transferred to St. Mungo's as we speak, Madam Bones replied. Extended exposure to Dementors requires healing. Perhaps this weekend, if the healers approve. I shall personally escort you, Harry, Dumbledore offered. As the meeting concluded, Harry felt lighter than he had in weeks. Justice was finally being served. But he couldn't help noticing the troubled expressions on the adults' faces. There's something else, isn't there? He asked as Fudge and Bones prepared to leave. Madam Bones hesitated, then nodded. Pettigrew's capture raises disturbing questions about who else might have escaped justice. And there are those in powerful positions who aren't pleased that these matters are coming to light. Lucius Malfoy, Harry guessed. Among others, Madam Bones confirmed. Be careful, Mr. Potter. You've made powerful enemies today. I've had powerful enemies since I was a baby, Harry replied. At least now I might have someone on my side who actually cares about me. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The Daily Prophet ran daily stories about Sirius's case, the miscarriages of justice during the war, and speculation about Harry's future living arrangements. Rita Skeeter seemed particularly interested in exposing ministry corruption, writing scathing articles about the influence of gold on political decisions. Harry received a brief letter from Sirius, written in shaky handwriting. Dear Harry, I can hardly believe this is real. After all these years, to be vindicated, and because of you, my brave godson. The healers say I can have visitors this Saturday. I can't wait to see you. We have so much to talk about. With love and gratitude, Sirius. The letter brought tears to Harry's eyes. For the first time, he had written proof that someone wanted him, someone who had loved him since he was a baby. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. When it finally arrived, Harry could barely contain his nervous energy as Dumbledore led him through the Floo network to St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. Sirius is in the Janus Thicky ward for long-term spell damage, Dumbledore explained as they navigated the corridors. The healers are optimistic about his recovery, but it will take time. Will he be well enough for me to live with him this summer? Harry asked anxiously. I believe so, Dumbledore replied. Though arrangements will need to be made to ensure your continued protection. They reached a private room where a healer was checking on a gaunt, haunted-looking man with long, matted black hair. Despite his skeletal appearance, Harry recognized Sirius from the photographs he'd found in the vault. When Sirius looked up and saw Harry, his sunken eyes filled with tears. Harry, he whispered hoarsely. You look so much like James. Except, I have my mother's eyes, Harry finished, stepping closer. Everyone tells me that. Sirius opened his arms, and Harry didn't hesitate. He rushed forward and embraced his godfather, feeling the man's tears soaking his shoulder as his own flowed freely. Thank you, Sirius murmured. You saved me. James and Lily's boy saved me. You're my family, Harry said simply. The only real family I have left. When they finally broke apart, Sirius kept a hand on Harry's shoulder as if afraid he might disappear. "The healers say I'll need to stay here for a few more weeks, but after that, if you want, I want to live with you," Harry said immediately. "As soon as possible." Sirius's smile transformed his gaunt face. "I've waited 10 years to hear those words. I promised your parents I'd take care of you if anything happened to them. I've failed you so far, but I swear I'll make it up to you." "You haven't failed me," Harry insisted. "You were wrongfully imprisoned. But you're free now, and we can be a family." Over the next few hours, they talked about everything: Harry's life with the Dursleys, which made Sirius growl with anger, his adventures at Hogwarts, and how he discovered the truth about Sirius's innocence. In turn, Sirius shared stories about James and Lily that made Harry laugh and cry in equal measure. "Your father would be so proud of what you've done," Sirius said. "Taking on the ministry at 11 years old. Pure James Potter, that is." With Lily's strategic thinking, Dumbledore added, having observed their reunion quietly. "She always did have a knack for finding people's weak points." "Speaking of the ministry," Sirius said, his expression hardening, "I've been reading the Prophet. Seems you've stirred up quite the hornet's nest, Harry. The calls for investigations into other cases are growing louder." "Good," Harry said firmly. "If other innocent people are in Azkaban, they deserve justice too." "You've started something bigger than you realize," Sirius said, a mix of pride and concern in his voice. "The old guard won't go down without a fight. Lucius Malfoy and his cronies have too much to lose if people start looking too closely at who did what during the war." "Let them fight," Harry replied. "We have the truth on our side." As they prepared to leave, Sirius caught Harry's hand. "There's something else you should know. The night your parents died, I went after Peter myself, consumed by rage and grief. I cornered him, but he outsmarted me. He shouted for everyone to hear that I'd betrayed James and Lily, then blew up the street and escaped." "We know," Harry said. "That's how we figured it out." Sirius shook his head. "What you need to understand is that I made a terrible mistake that night. I went after revenge instead of taking care of you. If I'd been thinking clearly, I'd have taken you straight to Dumbledore, explained everything, and we might have avoided all this. I put vengeance before my duty to you, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life." "You can't change the past," Harry said, echoing what Dumbledore had told him once. "But we have a future now, together." Sirius hugged him again. "Yes, we do. And I promise you, I'll never let you down again." The final weeks of Harry's first year at Hogwarts passed in a blur of exams, continued media coverage of "the Black Affair," as the Prophet had dubbed it, and planning for the summer. Through regular letters, Harry and Sirius discussed where they might live once Sirius was released from St. Mungo's. "Black family properties are available, but they're dark places filled with darker memories," Sirius wrote. "I'm thinking of purchasing something new, a fresh start for both of us." The impact of Harry's actions rippled through the wizarding world. Amelia Bones launched a comprehensive review of wartime trials, uncovering several cases of improper procedure. Minister Fudge, desperate to save his political career, publicly distanced himself from Lucius Malfoy and pledged reforms to ensure due process. Not everyone was pleased. Harry received several threatening letters, which McGonagall promptly confiscated and reported to the DMLE. Draco Malfoy and his cronies became increasingly hostile, though they were careful to avoid direct confrontation after Sirius, still technically Lord of the Ancient and Noble House of Black, sent Draco a formal letter reminding him of certain family obligations. Professor Quirrell seemed particularly agitated by the developments, disappearing for days at a time and returning looking paler and more twitchy than ever. Harry's scar often hurt during defense against the dark arts classes, a phenomenon he mentioned to Dumbledore. "Curious," the headmaster had said, looking troubled. "Most curious indeed. Please inform me immediately if this continues or worsens." On the last day of term, as students packed their trunks for the journey home, Ron made an offhand comment that would change everything. It's weird, isn't it? With all the excitement about Sirius, we completely forgot about whatever fluffy guarding. Harry froze in the act of folding his robes. The Philosopher's Stone. You're right, we haven't checked on it in weeks. Surely Dumbledore has it well protected, Hermione reassured them. With all those obstacles the teachers set up, but what if someone's figured them out? Harry interrupted, a sense of dread building. Quirrell's been acting strangely ever since Pettigrew was captured. You think Quirrell wants the stone? Ron asked skeptically. I think it's worth checking, Harry replied. That evening, they slipped out under Harry's invisibility cloak to the third-floor corridor. To their horror, the door was already ajar, and the sound of a harp playing drifted through. Someone's gone through, Harry whispered. We should get Dumbledore, Hermione insisted. There's no time, Harry argued. I'll go after them. You two get help. No way, Ron said firmly. We're coming with you. We started this together, Hermione added. We'll finish it together. Harry felt a surge of gratitude for his friends as they faced the sleeping three-headed dog. One by one, they conquered the obstacles, the devil's snare, the flying keys, the giant chess set, where Ron sacrificed himself to ensure their progress, the troll, already unconscious, and Snape's logic puzzle, which Hermione solved brilliantly. In the final chamber, Harry confronted not Quirrell, but Sirius Black. Sirius? Harry gasped. What are you doing here? Sirius turned, his face grim. Harry. You shouldn't be here, it's too dangerous. I thought you were still at St. Mungo's. I was released yesterday, Sirius explained. Dumbledore contacted me immediately about his suspicions regarding Quirrell. I came to help secure the stone. You mean Quirrell really is after it? Not Quirrell, Voldemort, Sirius said darkly. Quirrell's been sharing his body with what's left of Voldemort's spirit. Dumbledore figured it out after you mentioned your scar hurting around him. Harry's blood ran cold. Where is he now? Dumbledore's confronting him elsewhere in the castle, Sirius replied. I came to remove the stone before they could reach it. Harry noticed the small red stone in Sirius's hand. So we're safe. For now, Sirius confirmed. But Harry, this means Voldemort isn't truly gone. He's still out there, seeking ways to return. Then we'll face him together, Harry said firmly. As a family. Sirius's haunted eyes softened as he placed an arm around Harry's shoulders. As a family, he agreed. Now let's get your friends and get out of here. As they retraced their steps, Harry felt a strange mix of emotions, fear at the knowledge Voldemort still existed, determination to face whatever came next, and overwhelming joy that he no longer had to face these challenges alone. When they emerged from the third-floor corridor, they found Dumbledore waiting with McGonagall and Hermione. Quirrell? Sirius asked immediately. Gone, Dumbledore replied gravely. The spirit possessing him fled when confronted, leaving Quirrell's body to perish. Voldemort remains at large, I fear. The stone? McGonagall asked. Sirius produced it from his pocket. Safe. Nicholas and Perenelle have agreed it should be destroyed, Dumbledore said. They have enough elixir to set their affairs in order. Harry marveled at how easily Sirius integrated into this circle of powerful adults. This was his godfather, a warrior, a survivor, a man who had endured a decade of hell yet still stood ready to fight. What happens now? Harry asked. Now, Sirius said, looking down at him with fierce affection, we go home. On the Hogwarts Express the next day, Harry, Ron, and Hermione reflected on the incredible year they'd had. Hard to believe it all started with that letter from your mum, Ron said. What do you think would have happened if you'd never found it? Harry shuddered at the thought. Sirius would still be in Azkaban. I'd be heading back to the Dursleys. Voldemort might have gotten the stone. One small change altering everything, Hermione mused. It's remarkable. Not just the letter, Harry corrected. It was deciding to do something about it. Standing up for what's right even when everyone told me to leave it alone. As the train pulled into King's Cross, Harry spotted Sirius waiting on the platform, standing tall despite his still thin frame. Nearby, the Dursleys huddled nervously, clearly unhappy about being there. Harry stepped off the train with his trunk, said goodbye to his friends with promises to invite them over soon, and walked straight to Sirius. "Ready?" Sirius asked with a grin. "Ready," Harry confirmed. Together, they approached the Dursleys. Vernon's face purpled with fear and anger. "We won't be needing your services anymore," Sirius told them coldly. "Harry will be living with me now, as his parents intended." "Good riddance to bad rubbish," Vernon muttered, but faltered when Sirius's hand moved toward his wand pocket. "I'd choose my next words very carefully if I were you," Sirius said quietly. "I've spent 10 years with the worst creatures imaginable, thinking about what you did to my godson. Only Harry's presence is keeping me civil." The Dursleys retreated hastily, leaving Harry and Sirius alone. "Where are we going?" Harry asked. "I've rented a cottage in Devon for the summer while we look for a permanent home," Sirius replied. "It's not much, but it's perfect," Harry interrupted. "Because we'll be together." As they walked through the barrier back to the Muggle world, Harry felt a strange sense of coming full circle. Just like that day in Diagon Alley, he stood on the threshold of a new life. Only this time, he wasn't alone. This time, he had family. "I've been thinking," Sirius said as they headed for the exit. "About what you did, challenging the Ministry, exposing corruption, demanding justice." "Yeah?" Harry prompted when Sirius paused. "James would have been impressed, but Lily would have been proud," Sirius continued. "She always believed in fighting for what's right, no matter the cost. You've got the best of both of them in you, Harry." "I had good teachers," Harry replied. "And now I have you to learn from too." Sirius smiled, the haunted look in his eyes momentarily replaced by the spark of the man he'd been before Azkaban. "We've got a lot of lost time to make up for." "We've got all the time in the world," Harry said, stepping out into the summer sunshine with his godfather by his side, leaving the darkness behind them, for now. Chapter 2, The Battle for Truth. The Devon cottage sat on a grassy hill overlooking the sea. It wasn't large, just 2 bedrooms, a cozy sitting room, and a kitchen that had seen better days, but to Harry, it was paradise. For the first time in his life, he had a bedroom that wasn't a cupboard or Dudley's cast-off, adults who genuinely wanted him around, and the freedom to just be himself. "Breakfast," Sirius called from the kitchen on a bright July morning. Harry stumbled downstairs to find his godfather battling with a smoking frying pan. "Might have overdone the eggs a bit." Harry laughed as Sirius vanished the charred remains with a wave of his wand. "Maybe I should cook. The Dursleys had me making breakfast since I was 6. Sirius's face darkened. "Those bloody," he stopped himself, taking a deep breath. "Sorry. Still working on my temper after Azkaban. But no, you won't be cooking unless you want to. We'll figure it out together." They settled for cereal and toast, taking their bowls to the back porch where they could watch the waves crash against the cliffs below. "Letters arrived this morning," Sirius said, handing Harry several envelopes. "Looks like your friends miss you." Harry eagerly tore into Ron's letter first. "Harry, Dad's going mental at work. Ever since Pettigrew's capture, Bones has been tearing through the Ministry looking for corruption. 3 blokes from the Department of Magical Transportation got sacked yesterday for taking bribes from someone called Borgin. Dad says it's just the beginning. Anyway, Mum wants to know when you're coming to visit. Fred and George won't shut up about meeting the mighty Padfoot, now they know who he really is. Let me know if you can come stay." Ron Hermione's letter was equally interesting. "Dear Harry, hope you're having a wonderful summer with Sirius. My parents have been fascinated by everything that's happened. They're taking me to France next week, but I've been following the Daily Prophet carefully. Have you seen Rita Skeeter's latest series on ministry misdeeds? She's published 12 articles so far exposing everything from misappropriated funds to falsified creature registration records. Someone's clearly feeding her information. She mentions sources close to the boy who lives investigation repeatedly. Also, I've been researching wizarding guardianship laws. The blood protection Dumbledore mentioned might be important, but there are ways to transfer or extend it to a new home. I'll bring the books when we meet up. Love, Hermione, sounds like we've started quite the revolution, Sirius remarked, reading over Harry's shoulder. Harry nodded. I just wanted justice for you. I never expected all this. That's how it works sometimes, Sirius said, leaning back in his chair. Pull one thread, and the whole tapestry unravels. The third letter bore the official Hogwarts seal. Dear Mr. Potter, in light of recent events, the Hogwarts Board of Governors has authorized a special dispensation allowing you to visit the school on July 15 at 10 a.m. to review certain historical records related to your family and the events of 1981. Professor McGonagall will escort you and your guardian through the restricted archives. Please confirm your attendance. Yours sincerely, Albus Dumbledore Headmaster. What records do you think they're talking about? Harry asked. Sirius frowned thoughtfully. Could be anything. Testimonies, evidence from that night, or maybe records Dumbledore kept privately. Whatever it is, it must be important if they're opening the school during summer. We should go, Harry said decisively. Definitely, Sirius agreed. But be prepared, I doubt the ministry's thrilled about you digging deeper. As if on cue, a handsome tawny owl swooped down, dropping an official-looking envelope with the ministry seal. Sirius took it, his expression darkening as he read. What is it? Harry asked. A summons, Sirius replied grimly. The Undersecretary to the Minister requests your presence for an informal discussion regarding recent allegations and their impact on public confidence. In other words, they want to shut you up. Do I have to go? Legally, no. You're a minor. But politically. Sirius trailed off, thinking. Actually, this could work to our advantage. If we decline, they'll paint you as uncooperative. If we accept but bring our own terms. A slow, mischievous smile spread across Sirius's face, a glimpse of the marauder he'd once been. How do you feel about giving an interview right after this informal discussion? Harry grinned. I think Rita Skeeter would be very interested in hearing what the ministry has to say to an 11-year-old. The Ministry of Magic's imposing atrium buzzed with activity as Harry and Sirius stepped out of the flue. Heads turned immediately, conversations halting as whispers of, "It's Harry Potter," and "Black's with him," spread like wildfire. Harry kept his head high, conscious of Sirius's protective presence beside him. They'd prepared carefully for this meeting, reviewing likely questions and planning their responses. Sirius had even taken Harry shopping for proper wizarding robes, not dress robes, but something that says you respect the institution while questioning its actions. They checked their wands at the security desk, where the guard openly stared at Sirius. Got a problem? Sirius asked coolly. And no, sir, the guard stammered. It's an honor to meet you both. Harry glanced up at Sirius in surprise as they walked away. An honor? Sirius shrugged uncomfortably. Public opinion's a fickle thing. Last month I was Britain's most notorious criminal. Now I'm some kind of symbol of injustice overcome. Next week, who knows? A severe-looking witch met them at the elevator. Mr. Potter, Mr. Black. I'm Senior Assistant Dawlish. Please follow me. She led them to level 1 and down a corridor lined with moving portraits of previous ministers for magic. Many whispered as Harry passed, one elderly wizard in spectacles actually calling out, "Give them hell, boy." The meeting room was small but elegantly appointed, with a polished oak table and comfortable chairs. Waiting inside were Cornelius Fudge, looking harried in his pinstriped robes, a toad-like woman in alarming pink, and to Harry's surprise, Lucius Malfoy. What's he doing here? Sirius demanded immediately, stepping slightly in front of Harry. "Mr. Malfoy is here as an advisor to the minister," the pink-clad woman simpered. "I'm Dolores Umbridge, Senior Undersecretary." "Mr. Malfoy has no official ministry position," Sirius countered. "His presence makes this meeting appear less than informal, Minister." Fudge shifted uncomfortably. "Now, Black, we're all friends here, are we?" Harry interrupted, finding his voice. "Mr. Malfoy has actively worked to prevent investigations into wrongful imprisonments. That doesn't seem very friendly to me." Lucius's pale eyes narrowed. "Such accusations from a child are supported by evidence," Sirius finished firmly. "Either Mr. Malfoy leaves, or we do, and we'll explain exactly why to the Daily Prophet representatives waiting downstairs." Fudge's face paled. Prophet representatives? This was meant to be a private meeting. Just as private as my godfather's non-existent trial? Harry asked innocently. A tense silence followed before Fudge nodded reluctantly. "Lucius, perhaps it would be better if, say no more, Minister," Malfoy said smoothly, though his eyes flashed dangerously. "I wouldn't want to impede this constructive dialogue." As Malfoy swept from the room, Harry caught a whispered threat, "This isn't over, Potter." Once seated, Umbridge adopted a sickly sweet smile. "Now then, Mr. Potter. We've asked you here because your activities have caused quite a stir. While we all appreciate your concern for your godfather, certain allegations against the ministry have been damaging to public confidence." "Which allegations specifically?" Harry asked. "Your suggestions that the ministry routinely imprisons people without trial, for one," Fudge said. "Most irregular accusations, especially from someone your age." "I never said routinely," Harry corrected. "I simply pointed out that it happened to Sirius, and asked if it happened to others." "A reasonable question," Sirius added. "Which Madam Bones is now investigating officially." Umbridge's smile tightened. "The minister is concerned about the sensationalist tone of recent press coverage. Ms. Skeeter's articles particularly." "I don't control Rita Skeeter," Harry interrupted. "Though I notice you haven't disputed the facts in her reporting." Fudge tugged at his collar. "The matter is more complex than a child could understand. Sometimes during wartime, certain, expedient decisions must be made. Like denying basic rights to suspects." Sirius asked coldly. "The previous administration made those decisions," Fudge blustered. "Barty Crouch was running the DMLE then, not me." "Yet you've done nothing to review those cases until forced," Harry pointed out. "My question is simple, how many others like Sirius are still in Azkaban? People who never got trials?" Fudge and Umbridge exchanged glances. "The minister was hoping," Umbridge said carefully, "that you might consider a more collaborative approach. Perhaps a joint statement expressing confidence in the ministry's current review process, while acknowledging the complexities of the post-war period." "You want me to help you save face," Harry translated. "What do I get in return?" "Mr. Potter." Umbridge gasped, affronted. "This isn't a negotiation." "Actually, it is," Sirius countered. "You want Harry's support because his word carries weight with the public. That has value." Fudge leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" Harry met the minister's eyes steadily. "Complete transparency. All cases reviewed by an independent panel including non-ministry members. Full compensation for anyone wrongfully imprisoned. And a public apology to Sirius." "Impossible," Umbridge snapped. "The budget alone is less important than justice," Harry finished. "These are my terms." "You're an 11-year-old boy," Fudge said, exasperation overtaking diplomacy. "You can't dictate terms to the minister for magic." "Yet here we are," Sirius observed calmly. Fudge stood abruptly. "This meeting is over. Mr. Potter, I strongly advise you to consider the consequences of continuing this crusade. There are procedures, protocols, there were protocols for trials too, Harry replied, also standing. They weren't followed. Good day, Minister. As they left, Sirius squeezed Harry's shoulder. You were brilliant. They're not going to help us, are they? Harry asked quietly. No, Sirius confirmed. But they just showed their hand. They're scared, defensive, and now we know Malfoy's directly involved in damage control. In the atrium, Rita Skeeter awaited with a photographer and acid green quick quotes quill hovering beside her. Mr. Potter. Mr. Black. How was your meeting with Minister Fudge? Care to comment on rumors that the Ministry is attempting to suppress further investigations? Harry stepped forward, remembering Sirius's coaching. The Minister expressed concern about public confidence in the Ministry. I expressed concern about people's rights. Unfortunately, we couldn't reach an agreement on which should take priority. The quill scribbled frantically as Skeeter's eyes gleamed. And what happens next in your quest for justice? Harry exchanged glances with Sirius before answering. We continue seeking truth, no matter who tries to stand in our way. Next week, we'll be reviewing sealed records at Hogwarts that may shed light on other irregularities from that period. Fascinating. Skeeter purred. Any message for our readers? Just this, Harry said firmly. If someone you know disappeared into Azkaban without a proper trial, contact Madame Bones at the DMLE. It's time for all the secrets to come out. The Daily Prophet's headline the following morning read, Ministry attempts to silence boy who lived, they care more about saving face than justice, says Potter. The article detailed their confrontation with Fudge and Umbridge, highlighting the minister's refusal to commit to transparency. A sidebar titled, Who Else Languishes Unjustly in Azkaban, listed 10 cases already under review by Bones's team. We've definitely poked the dragon now, Sirius remarked over breakfast. Fudge will be furious. Good, Harry said, buttering his toast. Maybe anger will make him sloppy. A barn owl arrived with a letter from Hermione, Harry. That article was brilliant. My parents couldn't believe a government would imprison people without trials. Dad says it's positively medieval. I've been thinking about why they're fighting so hard against these investigations. It can't just be about reputation. There must be something bigger they're hiding. Something that would come out if they reopened all those old cases. Also, Ron told me, his dad says there's talk of an emergency Wisengamot session. Apparently, some of the lighter families are demanding answers. Be careful. Hermione. Harry showed the letter to Sirius, who nodded thoughtfully. She's right. This goes beyond saving face. When we visit Hogwarts tomorrow, keep your eyes open for anything connecting prominent Ministry officials to Death Eater activities. You think they're protecting themselves? People still in power who supported Voldemort? It would explain Malfoy's involvement, Sirius confirmed. He claimed Imperius after Voldemort fell, but anyone who knew him knew better. If these investigations dig deep enough, they might expose others who did the same, Harry finished. No wonder they're panicking. Later that day, Professor McGonagall arrived via Fleur to discuss their Hogwarts visit. The situation has become rather delicate, she explained, accepting tea from Sirius. The Board of Governors is divided on allowing you access to the archives. Lucius Malfoy particularly objected, but was overruled when Madame Bones issued an official request citing ongoing investigations. What exactly are we going to see? Harry asked. Records sealed after the war, McGonagall replied. Testimonies, evidence logs, correspondence between Hogwarts and the Ministry. Some items pertaining specifically to your parents and their friends. Will Dumbledore be there? Sirius asked, a slight edge to his voice. Yes, McGonagall confirmed. Though I should warn you both, the headmaster is under considerable pressure. Minister Fudge has threatened to review his position if these investigations continue destabilizing the Ministry. Harry frowned. They can't sack Dumbledore, can they? The board appoints the headmaster, McGonagall explained. With enough political pressure, yes, they could. Albus isn't concerned for himself, but for the potential disruption to the school and its students. So he wants us to back off? Harry asked, disappointment evident. No, McGonagall said firmly. He wants you to be strategic. Choose your battles carefully. Focus on concrete injustices rather than vague accusations. Sirius nodded. Sound advice. We're not looking to burn down the entire ministry, just clean out the rot. The next morning, Harry and Sirius fled directly to Dumbledore's office. The headmaster greeted them gravely, the usual twinkle in his eyes dimmed. Harry, Sirius. Thank you for coming. Before we proceed to the archives, there's something you should know. The records you'll be viewing were sealed by ministry decree. My providing access could technically be considered a violation of those orders. You're risking your position, Harry realized. Some things are worth risking one's position for, Dumbledore replied simply. Justice being among them. Now, follow me, please. He led them through deserted corridors to a section of the castle Harry had never visited, a tower with a spiral staircase descending deep underground instead of climbing upward. The Hogwarts archives contain records dating back to the school's founding, Dumbledore explained as they descended. Many headmasters have maintained private records as well, particularly during times of conflict. At the bottom of the stairs, they found Professor McGonagall waiting before an ornate iron door bearing the school crest. I've prepared the relevant materials, she said, tapping the door with her wand in a complex pattern. It swung open to reveal a circular room lined with shelves and cabinets. In the center stood a large table upon which several boxes and folders had been arranged. These contain all records pertaining to the events of 1980 to 81 relevant to your interests, McGonagall explained. School records of suspected Death Eater students, correspondence regarding Order of the Phoenix members, and, she hesitated, glancing at Dumbledore, my personal objections to Harry's placement with the Dursleys. Your objections were recorded? Harry asked, surprised. I insisted they be, McGonagall said grimly. Though they were subsequently sealed by ministry order. For the next several hours, Harry and Sirius pored over the documents while Dumbledore and McGonagall occasionally offered context. What emerged was a disturbing picture of ministry interference, suppressed evidence, and questionable decisions. Look at this, Harry said, pointing to a list of names. These people all claimed Imperius after Voldemort fell, but this order report lists them as confirmed Death Eaters based on multiple witness accounts. Avery, Knott, Crabbe, Goyle, Malfoy, Sirius read. No surprises there. But look who authorized their releases without full Wisengamot hearings, Cornelius Fudge, then junior minister for the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes. He wasn't even in the DMLE, Harry noted. Why would he have that authority? He wouldn't, Dumbledore said quietly. Unless someone with actual authority was working through him. Another folder contained transcripts of interrogations conducted immediately after the fall of Voldemort. This is interesting, Sirius murmured, reading a transcript. Augustus Rookwood, Department of Mysteries, claimed under initial questioning that several ministry officials were passing information to Voldemort. Names were supposed to be provided at his full trial, but... He flipped the page, trial records show no mention of these allegations. They were struck from the official record, McGonagall confirmed. I attended as a witness. When Rookwood began naming names, Barty Crouch ordered the courtroom cleared and the remainder of the trial conducted in secret. So they covered up ministry involvement, Harry concluded. And now they're afraid that reopening cases like yours will expose that cover-up. Precisely, Dumbledore agreed. It's not merely about wrongful imprisonments, but about who escaped justice through political connections. A final folder contained what Harry had been most eager to see, documents related directly to Sirius's case and Harry's placement. This is it, he said, hands trembling slightly as he opened it. The official order remanding you to Azkaban without trial. The document bore 3 signatures, Barty Crouch Sr. as head of the DMLE, Minister Millicent Bagnold, and a third name that made Sirius inhale sharply. Dolores Umbridge, special assistant to the minister. That pink-clad toad signed my imprisonment order. And she's still in power, even higher up now, Harry noted grimly. No wonder she tried to shut us up. Another document caught his eye, an official objection filed by McGonagall regarding his placement with the Dursleys. I must register my strongest possible protest against placing Harry Potter with these muggles. I have observed them for an entire day and they are the worst sort imaginable. They despise magic and anything associated with our world. The child will be miserable there, possibly even in danger. Furthermore, this placement directly contravenes Lily and James Potter's explicit wishes as stated in their will. Legal guardianship should pass to Sirius Black or, if he is indeed guilty of the crimes alleged, to Remus Lupin or myself as specified in the succession of guardianship. I request a formal hearing on this matter before the Wisengamot Family Division. Below this was a response stamped, denied, and signed by Dolores Umbridge, citing security concerns, and the minister's emergency powers during ongoing crisis. She blocked a hearing on my guardianship too, Harry said, anger bubbling inside him. Umbridge is behind everything. Not everything, Dumbledore cautioned. But certainly, she has been instrumental in maintaining these secrets. She rose quickly through ministry ranks by helping powerful people bury inconvenient truths. We need to expose her, Harry declared. Carefully, Sirius warned. She's dangerous, Harry. People who've crossed her tend to encounter unfortunate accidents or sudden scandals. Then we'll be even more careful, Harry insisted. But I won't let her get away with this. As they prepared to leave, Dumbledore handed Harry a small leather-bound journal. Your mother's diary from 1981. I've kept it safe all these years, uncertain when would be the right time to share it. I believe that time is now. Harry clutched the book to his chest, overwhelmed by the gift. Thank you, sir. One more thing, Dumbledore said, his expression grave. These investigations have stirred powerful opposition. I fear they may take more direct action against you both. The cottage in Devon, while pleasant, offers limited protection. We've been strengthening the wards, Sirius assured him. Even so, Dumbledore persisted, I would strongly advise relocating to a property with more ancient protections. Perhaps the Black family home, unpleasant though it may be. Sirius grimaced. Grimmauld Place is the last resort. It's practically a monument to dark magic. Which makes it exceptionally difficult to penetrate, Dumbledore pointed out. With some cleaning and your rights as head of house to modify its protections, it could be made quite secure. We'll consider it, Sirius conceded reluctantly. That evening, Harry sat on his bed reading his mother's diary by wandlight. Her elegant handwriting filled page after page with observations, fears, and moments of joy during the last months of her life. One entry from March 1981 caught his attention. James is driving me mad with his security measures, but I can't blame him. The prophecy has us all on edge. Dumbledore insists we need the Fidelius, but I worry about putting so much pressure on Sirius. He's already a target as James's best friend. Pettigrew visited today. Something feels off about him lately, he's jumpy, constantly checking windows and doors. James thinks it's just the stress we're all under, but my instincts say there's more to it. I've started keeping a log of his visits and his questions. Perhaps I'm being paranoid, but better paranoid than dead. Harry flipped forward eagerly, looking for this log, but found nothing explicit. Several pages later, however, a different entry made his heart race. October 1st, 1981. We've decided to switch secret keepers. Sirius thinks he's too obvious a choice, the Death Eaters are already hunting him. He suggested Peter instead. No one would suspect him. I'm not entirely comfortable with this change, but James trusts Peter completely, and I trust James. As insurance, I've left memories and documents in our Gringotts vault. If anything happens, Sirius or Remus will ensure Harry knows the truth when he's old enough. I've also sent copies of certain information to Bathilda Bagshot for safekeeping. The old dear doesn't fully understand what she's holding, just that it's important and relates to ministry irregularities I've been tracking. She's promised to keep it hidden until someone comes with the passphrase, "The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." Harry nearly dropped the diary. His mother had hidden additional evidence with someone named Bathilda Bagshot. He rushed downstairs to find Sirius dozing in an armchair by the fire. "Sirius! Wake up!" Harry shook his godfather's shoulder urgently. "I know where Mum hid more evidence." Sirius blinked awake. "Wah, Harry? What time is it?" "Never mind that." Harry thrust the diary under Sirius's nose. "Read this." As Sirius read, his eyes widened. "Bathilda Bagshot, she lived in Godric's Hollow, just down the street from your parents. Old witch, historian, wrote A History of Magic. If Lily left documents with her. We need to find her," Harry insisted. "Tonight." "Not tonight," Sirius said firmly, though excitement shone in his eyes. "We need to plan this carefully. For one thing, Godric's Hollow will be watched, it's where everything happened. For another, Bathilda was ancient 14 years ago. She might not even be alive now. But if she is, and if she still has whatever Mum gave her, it could break the case wide open," Sirius agreed. "But we do this smart, not rushed. Tomorrow, I'll make discreet inquiries about whether she's still living. Then we'll plan a careful approach." Reluctantly, Harry agreed, though he barely slept that night, his mind racing with possibilities. What had his mother discovered? What ministry irregularities had she been tracking? And would Bathilda Bagshot still have the evidence after all these years? The next morning, Sirius contacted Remus Lupin, who had been traveling abroad researching rare defensive magic but had recently returned after hearing about Sirius's exoneration. "Remus can make inquiries without attracting attention," Sirius explained as they waited for his arrival. "Most people still see him as the quiet, bookish one from our group." When Remus stepped through the flue, Harry was struck by his careworn appearance, shabby robes, prematurely lined face, and tired eyes that nonetheless lit up at the sight of Harry. "Harry," he said warmly, embracing him. "Last time I saw you, you were barely toddling around. You look so much like James, though your eyes are my mother's," Harry finished with a smile. "I've heard that a lot lately." After catching up briefly, they explained about Lily's diary and the hidden evidence. "Bathilda is indeed still alive," Remus confirmed. "Though quite elderly and, from what I hear, becoming somewhat confused. I visited Godric's Hollow last week to pay respects at James and Lily's graves, and several locals mentioned her." "Would she remember where she hid Mum's documents?" Harry asked anxiously. "That's hard to say," Remus replied. "Memory charms might have been involved for her own protection. The passphrase suggests as much, it might trigger recall of the hiding place." "We need to see her," Harry insisted. "We will," Sirius assured him. "But Remus, what about surveillance? Is the cottage being watched?" Remus nodded grimly. "Ministry personnel maintain a discreet presence, ostensibly for historical preservation. And I noticed someone who looked suspiciously like McNair lurking near the memorial." "McNair?" Sirius's expression darkened. "He's a Death Eater who claimed Imperius. Works for the ministry now as an executioner for the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. So we need a distraction," Harry concluded. "And a disguise," Remus added. "Harry's too recognizable, and Sirius is still front-page news." They spent the day planning their approach. Hedwig delivered letters back and forth to Ron and Hermione, who eagerly agreed to help. Preparations were made, disguises crafted, and roles assigned. By evening, they were ready. "Remember," Sirius said as they prepared to depart the next morning, "if anything feels wrong, we abort immediately. Your safety comes first, Harry." "I understand," Harry agreed, though privately he had no intention of backing down if they got close to discovering his mother's hidden evidence. The following day, their plan unfolded. While Ron's family created a distraction by visiting the Potter Memorial in the center of Godric's Hollow, with Remus casually accompanying them, Harry and Sirius, disguised with color-changing charms to their hair and subtle alterations to their facial features, approached Bathilda's cottage from the rear. "Remember," Sirius murmured as they reached the back door, "if she seems confused, don't push too hard. The passphrase should work if Lily's charms are still intact." An elderly, stooped woman answered their knock, peering at them with rheumy eyes. "Yes. Who is it?" "Friends of the Potters," Sirius said gently. "We've come about something Lily left with you." Bathilda's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Many come asking about the Potters. I don't talk to reporters." "We're not reporters," Harry said quickly. "We're family." He hesitated, then added, "The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." The effect was immediate and startling. Bathilda straightened as if years had fallen away, her eyes suddenly clear and alert. "You know the words. Come in quickly." Inside, the cottage was cluttered with books, papers, and historical artifacts. Bathilda led them to a small sitting room, then placed her hands on Harry's face. "Lily's eyes," she whispered. "And James's face. You're their boy." "Yes," Harry confirmed. "I'm Harry." Bathilda nodded, then turned to a bookshelf, running her fingers along the spines until she found a particular volume, Magical Mediterranean Water Plants and Their Properties. "Lily said to keep this safe," she murmured, pulling the book from the shelf. "Said it contained truths people would kill for." Inside the hollowed-out book lay a small golden key and a sealed envelope addressed to "My son." Harry's hands trembled as he opened the letter. "My dearest Harry, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened, and you found your way to Bathilda with the passphrase I created. I pray Sirius or Remus is with you, guiding you on this journey. During my work as an unspeakable, a secret I kept from most, but not your father, I discovered disturbing connections between certain ministry officials and Death Eater activities. Evidence of bribes, memory modifications, and deliberate mishandling of cases to protect those with connections to Voldemort. The enclosed key opens a secure vault at Gringotts, registered under the name Marion Peveril, an ancestor of your father's. Inside, you'll find my complete research, including names, dates, and proof of collusion. I entrusted this to Bathilda rather than placing it in our family vault because I feared our protections might be compromised. Recent events have made me suspicious of people I once trusted implicitly. Be careful, my darling boy. Powerful people will not want these secrets revealed. With all my love, Mum." Harry passed the letter to Sirius, his mind reeling. His mother had been an unspeakable, a researcher in the Department of Mysteries, and had uncovered a conspiracy within the ministry itself. "This explains so much," Sirius murmured after reading. "Why certain people were so keen to ensure I never got a trial. Why your placement with the Dursleys was rushed through without following the will's instructions." "We need to get to Gringotts," Harry said firmly. "Thank you, Bathilda," Sirius said, turning to the elderly witch. "You've kept Lily's trust all these years." "Such a bright girl," Bathilda said fondly, though her eyes were growing vague again. "Visited often, asking about magical history, old family connections, very interested in the Peverils, she was." They left quickly, reapplying their disguises before rejoining Remus and the Weasleys in the village square. "Did you find anything?" Remus asked quietly as they walked toward the apparition point. "More than we expected," Sirius replied under his breath. "We need to get to Gringotts immediately." Diagon Alley was relatively quiet for a summer day, which suited their purposes perfectly. Entering Gringotts, they approached a free goblin teller. "We need to access the Marion Peveril vault," Harry said, presenting the golden key. The goblin examined it carefully. "This vault has not been accessed in over 10 years. Identification will be required. I'm Harry Potter, son of Lily Potter, who established the vault. The goblin's eyes widened slightly. Very well. Bloodstone verification will be necessary. They were led to a private room where Harry pressed his palm against a rough red stone, which glowed briefly before turning green. Identity confirmed, the goblin announced. Follow me. The Peveril vault was smaller than the Potter family vault but contained something far more valuable, a meticulously organized collection of documents, memory vials, and photographs labeled in Lily's neat handwriting. She really was brilliant, Sirius murmured, examining the cataloging system. Everything cross-referenced and dated. They quickly discovered the extent of Lily's investigations. Working in the Department of Mysteries had given her access to classified information, which she had used to track connections between Ministry officials and known Death Eater activities. Look at this, Harry said, holding up a folder labeled Umbridge/Selwyn Connection. Inside was evidence that Dolores Umbridge had deliberately buried investigations into her cousin's Death Eater activities in exchange for career advancement. Another file contained proof that Cornelius Fudge had accepted substantial donations from suspected Death Eaters like Lucius Malfoy in exchange for quashing investigations and arranging for cases to be dismissed. Most disturbing was a thick folder labeled Crouch/Bagnold Special Detentions. It contained a list of individuals imprisoned without trial, not just Sirius, but nearly 24 others whose cases had been deemed too sensitive for public hearings. This is explosive, Remus breathed, paging through the documents. If this gets out, when this gets out, Harry corrected firmly. Mum didn't hide this so it could stay buried forever. We need to be strategic, Sirius cautioned. Release everything at once, and they'll bury it in denials and counter-accusations. We need to plan each revelation for maximum impact. And ensure our own safety, Remus added. Once we start releasing this, we'll be targets. Harry nodded, remembering Dumbledore's warning. You're right. We should move to a more secure location first. Sirius grimaced. Grimmauld Place it is, then. They carefully packed Lily's evidence into expandable folders Hermione had enchanted for them, with an impressive undetectable extension charm. Before leaving the bank, Harry pulled Sirius aside. I want to make copies of everything, to store in multiple locations. Just in case. Smart thinking, Sirius agreed. Your mother would be proud of your caution. Upon returning to the cottage, they found it had been searched in their absence, drawers pulled open, papers scattered, and Harry's trunk upended. Nothing seemed to be missing, but the message was clear, they were being watched. Time to disappear, Sirius said grimly, hastily packing essentials. We moved to Grimmauld Place tonight. Number 12, Grimmauld Place was every bit as grim as its name suggested. Hidden between numbers 11 and 13 by powerful enchantments, the ancestral Black Home was a monument to pure-blood supremacy and dark magic. Charming place, Harry commented as they entered the dusty hallway lined with mounted house elf heads. Wait until you meet my mother's portrait, Sirius muttered. And creature. With a crack, an ancient house elf appeared, glowering at them with bloodshot eyes. Master has returned with the half-blood brat. My poor mistress would be so ashamed. Enough, creature, Sirius snapped. This house is now under my authority as head of the Black family. You will make it habitable for Harry and our guests, and you will speak respectfully to everyone here. Is that understood? Creature bowed, muttering under his breath but clearly bound to obey. Yes, master. Creature lives to serve the noble and most ancient house of Black. The next few days were spent making the house livable and planning their next moves. Ron and Hermione joined them, along with Remus, who took up residence in one of the many spare bedrooms. Together, they sorted through Lily's evidence, organizing it into categories and deciding which revelations would have the most immediate impact. We need to focus on specific injustices first, Hermione advised, always the strategist. Individual cases people can relate to, before moving on to the systemic corruption. The special detentions list is perfect, Ron agreed. People unjustly imprisoned, families torn apart, that's something everyone can understand and be outraged about. Harry nodded. And we have the perfect platform to release it. Rita Skeeter's been dying for more material. With the plan settled, Harry composed a letter to Skeeter, offering an exclusive interview about newly discovered evidence of ministry misconduct. Her enthusiastic reply arrived within hours, agreeing to meet them at a location of their choosing. The interview took place in a private room at the Leaky Cauldron, under multiple privacy wards established by Sirius and Remus. Harry brought only the special detentions list and supporting documents, careful not to reveal their full hand. "Mr. Potter," Skeeter purred as her quick quotes quill danced across parchment, "you claim to have discovered evidence of a systematic program of imprisonment without trial. That's quite an accusation for a young boy." "I didn't discover it," Harry corrected. "My mother did." As an unspeakable with the Department of Mysteries, she had access to classified information. Before her death, she compiled evidence of corruption within the ministry, which she hid for safekeeping. Skeeter's eyes widened. Lily Potter was an unspeakable. That was never publicly disclosed. The Department of Mysteries doesn't advertise its employees, Sirius interjected. But her credentials can be verified through Gringotts, where she established a secure vault under a pseudonym to protect her research. Harry pushed the list across the table. These 23 individuals were imprisoned without trial under a classified, special detention, protocol signed by Barty Crouch Sr. and Minister Bagnold. Dolores Umbridge, then special assistant to the minister, processed the paperwork. Skeeter scanned the list, her expression growing more predatory with each name. Fascinating. Some of these individuals are still in Azkaban, while others. Sirius Black, Broderick McLagan, Cynthia Diggory, Waite Diggory. Any relation to Amos Diggory's sister, Sirius confirmed. Arrested on suspicion of passing information to Death Eaters. No trial, no Veritaserum, just locked away. She died in Azkaban 3 years later. And McLagan? The name's familiar. Cousin to Tiberius McLagan, who currently serves on the Wizengamot. Broderick was released after 5 years when Tiberius finally gained enough influence to force a review. No apology, no compensation, and a gag order preventing him from discussing his detention. Harry leaned forward. This wasn't just wartime expediency, Ms. Skeeter. It was a deliberate program to silence people who knew too much about ministry connections to Voldemort's supporters. The interview continued for nearly 2 hours, with Harry and Sirius carefully presenting only the evidence related to wrongful imprisonments, holding back the more explosive revelations about specific officials' corruption for later strategic release. "One final question, Mr. Potter," Skeeter said as they concluded. "What do you hope to achieve with these revelations?" Harry met her gaze steadily. "Justice. For Sirius, for the others on that list, and for everyone who's been silenced by a system that protects the powerful at the expense of the truth. My parents died fighting against Voldemort and everything he stood for. I won't let their sacrifice be betrayed by the very institutions that should be upholding their values." The resulting article hit like a bombshell. Published as a special evening edition, the Prophet's headline screamed, "Ministry's Secret Prisoner Program Exposed, Boy Who Lived Reveals Mother's Hidden Investigation, 23 Imprisoned Without Trial, Many Still in Azkaban Within Hours." The ministry was in chaos. Families of those named in the article besieged the DMLE demanding answers. The Wizengamot's progressive faction called for an emergency session. Cornelius Fudge issued a panicked statement promising a thorough investigation into these historical allegations. At Grimmauld Place, Harry and his friends monitored the fallout via wireless and a steady stream of owls from allies within the ministry. Arthur Weasley reported that Amelia Bones had seized the special detention files and ordered immediate status reports on all individuals still in custody. "It's working," Harry said, relief evident in his voice. "They can't ignore this now." "No," Sirius agreed, "but they'll try to contain it. Blame it on previous administrations, a few bad apples, wartime necessity, anything to protect the current power structure." "Which is why we release the financial connections next," Hermione suggested. show how current officials benefited from these cover-ups. Their planning was interrupted by an urgent flu call from Professor McGonagall. "Potter, Black," she said, her face in the green flames looking unusually tense. "You should know that Umbridge has dispatched Aurors to locate and detain you both for questioning regarding classified information. Officially, they're investigating how you obtained state secrets." "Can they do that?" Harry asked, alarmed. "Not legally," McGonagall replied. "But they're claiming national security concerns to bypass normal procedures. Amelia Bones is fighting it, but her authority is being challenged. Stay where you are, the Fidelius on that house should protect you for now." After McGonagall's warning, they accelerated their plans. The next day, while ministry officials searched fruitlessly for Harry and Sirius, Rita Skeeter published a second explosive article detailing financial transactions between Cornelius Fudge and families later identified as Death Eater supporters. The day after that, a third article exposed Umbridge's role in suppressing investigations into her relatives' dark activities. Each revelation fueled public outrage. Wizarding wireless call-in shows were flooded with demands for resignations and criminal investigations. The Wizengamot scheduled an emergency session for the following Monday to address the growing crisis. "They're going to try to make this go away at the Wizengamot session," Sirius predicted. "Closed proceedings, classified discussions, and a sanitized public statement afterward." "Then we need to be there," Harry said firmly. "In person, where they can't ignore us." "That's exactly what they're hoping for," Remus cautioned. "The moment you appear publicly, they'll have Aurors ready to detain you." "Not if we have public opinion firmly on our side," Hermione countered. "Harry needs to make his case directly to the people before the session." "A press conference," Ron suggested. "With all those reporters there, they couldn't just grab you without causing an even bigger scandal." "Brilliant," Harry agreed. "We'll hold it the morning before the Wizengamot meets." Planning the press conference took their full attention. Location was critical, it needed to be public enough to ensure safety in numbers, but secure enough to prevent immediate apprehension. "What about Gringotts Steps?" Sirius suggested. "Neutral territory, technically. The Ministry has limited authority there without Goblin cooperation." "Perfect," Harry agreed. "And we'll invite every publication, not just the Prophet. The Quibbler, international press, even Muggle news outlets." "Muggles?" Ron asked, surprised. "Not to reveal magic," Harry clarified, "but to create more witnesses. The Ministry would think twice about causing a scene in front of Muggles." The day before the Wizengamot session, Harry stood on the steps of Gringotts facing a sea of reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers. Sirius stood protectively at his side, with Remus, Ron, and Hermione nearby. "Thank you all for coming," Harry began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I've called this press conference to address directly the evidence my mother, Lily Potter, gathered about corruption within the Ministry of Magic prior to her death." A murmur ran through the crowd as Harry held up a folder of documents. These records prove that current senior officials, including Minister Fudge and Undersecretary Umbridge, have systematically abused their positions to protect Death Eater sympathizers, imprison innocent people without trial, and enrich themselves through bribes and illegal favors. Camera flashes exploded as Harry continued, detailing specific instances of corruption with names, dates, and amounts. He explained his mother's role as an unspeakable investigating these connections, and how she had hidden her findings before her death. Tomorrow, the Wizengamot will meet in emergency session to address these revelations. They will likely attempt to classify these proceedings, to bury the truth once again behind closed doors. I am calling on every member of the Wizengamot to demand full transparency and public hearings." As Harry finished, a commotion at the edge of the crowd drew everyone's attention. A squad of Aurors led by Dolores Umbridge herself pushed through, wands drawn. "Harry Potter," Umbridge called in her sickly sweet voice, "you are hereby detained for unauthorized possession of classified materials and endangering national security." Cameras swiveled to capture the confrontation as Sirius stepped in front of Harry. Under what authority are you acting, Madam Umbridge? The DMLE is headed by Amelia Bones, who has issued no such detention order. This comes directly from the minister, Umbridge snapped. Stand aside, Black. I don't think I will, Sirius replied coolly. You've already stolen 10 years of my life without due process. You won't take my godson too. The crowd had grown larger, with ordinary witches and wizards joining the journalists. Angry murmurs rippled through them as people recognized Umbridge from the recent articles. That's her, the one who signed the imprisonment orders. She's trying to silence the boy now too. Where's Bones? Why isn't she handling this? Sensing the crowd's mood turning against her, Umbridge faltered. This is a ministry matter. Interfering would constitute obstruction of justice. There's nothing just about this, Harry called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. Just like there was nothing just about imprisoning innocent people without trials. Just like there was nothing just about accepting bribes to protect Death Eaters. A voice from the back of the crowd cut through the tension. Stand down, Dolores. The crowd parted to reveal Amelia Bones striding forward, flanked by her own Aurors. Minister Fudge does not have the authority to bypass DMLE procedures for detention, as you well know. This boy has stolen classified documents, Umbridge began. Documents his mother legally accessed in her capacity as an unspeakable, Bones interrupted. Documents that reveal criminal misconduct by ministry officials, including yourself. She turned to the Aurors accompanying Umbridge. You have a choice to make right now. Follow illegal orders from an undersecretary acting without proper authority, or uphold your oath to magical law. One by one, the Aurors lowered their wands and stepped back from Umbridge, who stood alone, her face mottled with rage. This isn't over, she hissed at Harry before turning and pushing her way back through the crowd. The confrontation made the front page of every publication in Wizarding Britain, complete with moving photographs of Umbridge's humiliation. By morning, public sentiment had shifted decisively in Harry's favor, with crowds gathering outside the ministry demanding open hearings and resignations. The emergency Wisengamot session was originally scheduled to be closed, but under intense public pressure, Chief Warlock Dumbledore declared it would be open to the public and press. The chamber was packed to capacity when Harry arrived with Sirius, both officially invited to testify. Minister Fudge looked ashen as he took his place, while Umbridge was conspicuously absent. Lucius Malfoy and several other wealthy purebloods huddled together in the visitors' gallery, faces tight with concern. Dumbledore called the session to order with a grave expression. We are convened today to address serious allegations of misconduct within the Ministry of Magic, specifically regarding improper detentions and corruption during and after the last Wizarding War. Amelia Bones presented the preliminary findings of her investigation, confirming the authenticity of the special detention records and the financial transactions documented in Lily Potter's research. Based on these findings, she concluded, I am recommending immediate review of all cases listed in the Special Detention Protocol, release of anyone still imprisoned without trial, and criminal investigation into those who authorized and implemented this program. When Harry was called to testify, he spoke not just about Sirius's case, but about the broader pattern of injustice his mother had documented. He presented additional evidence of Umbridge's direct involvement in suppressing investigations into Death Eater connections and Fudge's acceptance of donations from suspects in exchange for political favors. My mother didn't hide this evidence to destroy the ministry, Harry concluded. She preserved it because she believed in justice and truth. She believed the wizarding world deserved better than leaders who would sacrifice innocent people to protect the guilty. I'm here today to honor her faith in that ideal. The session lasted well into the evening, with testimony from several individuals named in Lily's documents. By the time Dumbledore called for a vote, the outcome was inevitable. The Wisengamot voted overwhelmingly to establish an independent commission to review all cases from the Special Detention Program, to provide compensation for those wrongfully imprisoned, and to open criminal investigations into officials involved in corruption. Minister Fudge, seeing the writing on the wall, announced his immediate resignation, for personal reasons. Dolores Umbridge was suspended pending investigation. Amelia Bones was named acting minister until elections could be held. As Harry and Sirius left the ministry that evening, reporters clamored for statements, but Harry felt too emotionally drained to speak. He'd done it, he'd exposed the truth, secured justice for Sirius and others like him, and honored his mother's courage. Yet the victory felt bittersweet, knowing how many lives had been destroyed by the corruption they'd uncovered. "You did it, pup," Sirius said softly as they pushed through the crowd. "You've changed the world." "We did it," Harry corrected. "Together." Back at Grimmauld Place, they found a celebration waiting. The Weasleys, Hermione, Remus, and even Professor McGonagall had gathered to mark the historic day. To Harry, Fred and George called in unison, raising their butterbeer bottles. "Champion of justice and professional ministry toppler." Everyone laughed and cheered, but Harry noticed McGonagall looking unusually somber despite the victory. "Is something wrong, Professor?" he asked quietly. "Not wrong, Potter," she replied. "Just, aware of what comes next. You've made powerful enemies today. Enemies who won't forgive easily." Lucius Malfoy looked ready to hex someone when they announced the investigations. Sirius agreed, joining them. "And there are others like him, wealthy, connected, and deeply implicated. They'll regroup," McGonagall warned. "Find new ways to protect themselves and target you. Be vigilant in the months ahead." Harry nodded solemnly. "I will. But I won't stop either. There's more of Mum's evidence we haven't released yet, deeper connections we've only begun to understand. One battle at a time," Sirius advised. "Today was a victory. Let's celebrate it properly before we plan the next campaign." As the evening progressed, Harry found himself sitting with Ron and Hermione, watching the adults laugh and reminisce about better times. "What happens now?" Ron asked. "With school starting soon and everything?" "We go back," Harry said firmly. "We learn everything we can. And we keep fighting for what's right." Hermione squeezed his hand. "Your parents would be so proud, Harry. Not just for exposing the truth, but for bringing people together to fight for justice." Harry looked around the room, at Sirius and Remus, reunited after years of believing the worst of each other, at the Weasleys, who had embraced him as one of their own, at McGonagall and his friends, who had stood by him when it mattered most. "That's what really defeats people like Voldemort in the end," he said quietly. "Not just fighting against them, but building something better together." As the celebration continued around him, Harry felt a sense of peace he'd never known before. The road ahead would be difficult, with old enemies regrouping and new challenges emerging. But for the first time, he truly believed in the possibility of justice, not just for Sirius, but for everyone who had suffered under corruption and fear. His mother's hidden evidence had done more than expose crimes from the past. It had lit a path forward, toward a wizarding world that lived up to its highest ideals rather than its darkest impulses. And Harry was determined to walk that path, no matter where it led. Chapter 3, Justice served. The last 2 weeks of summer flew by in a blur of press conferences, ministry restructuring, and personal victories. Harry and Sirius sat in the kitchen of Grimmauld Place, surrounded by stacks of Daily Prophet editions chronicling what people now called the Great Ministry Purge. "Look at this one," Harry said, sliding a newspaper across the table. "Umbridge finally arrested. Took them long enough." Sirius whistled as he scanned the headline, "Senior Undersecretary charged with 23 counts of unlawful detention. Bones isn't messing around. Says here they found incriminating documents in Umbridge's personal safe. Lists of people she wanted, handled, and records of payoffs. Bet she regrets not burning those," Harry remarked, buttering his toast. "Hermione says only truly arrogant people keep evidence of their own crimes. Speaking of Hermione, when are your friends arriving?" Harry glanced at the clock. "Around noon. The Weasleys are bringing them through the floor. Mrs. Weasley's probably cooking enough food for a small army." "Good," Sirius said, pouring more coffee. "This place could use some noise and chaos." "It's too Black family for my taste. He grimaced at the dark decor they hadn't yet managed to update. A tapping at the window interrupted them. A regal ministry owl waited outside with an official-looking envelope. "Your Hogwarts letter?" Sirius asked as Harry let the bird in. "No, got that last week." Harry untied the envelope and broke the seal of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. His eyes widened as he read. "It's from Madame Bones. The final hearing for your case is scheduled for tomorrow morning. They want us both to attend." Sirius's face grew serious. "The formal exoneration. Even with everything that's happened, I've been living in this weird limbo, technically free but not officially cleared." "This makes it official," Harry said, handing him the letter. "Full exoneration, complete record expungement, and—" He grinned, compensation hearing immediately following. 10 years in Azkaban, Sirius mused. "Wonder what that's worth to them." "Nothing would be enough," Harry said fiercely. "But cleaning your name completely? That's something." Sirius reached across the table and squeezed Harry's shoulder. "None of this would have happened without you, you know. I'd still be rotting in that cell if you hadn't found your mother's letter and fought for justice." Harry felt his cheeks warm. Even after weeks of public attention, he still wasn't used to praise. "I just did what was right." "That's rarer than you think," Sirius replied. "Speaking of doing what's right, have you heard from Dumbledore about the stone situation?" Harry frowned. The Philosopher's Stone remained a loose end in their summer of revelations. After their confrontation with Quirrell at the end of term, Dumbledore had taken custody of the stone, promising to discuss its fate with Nicholas Flamel. Nothing specific. His last letter just said, arrangements have been made for its security. Whatever that means. Classic Dumbledore, Sirius snorted. Vague to the point of uselessness. "He did mention he'll be at your hearing tomorrow. Maybe we can corner him afterward." The fireplace flared green before Sirius could respond, and Ron tumbled out, followed by Hermione, then a parade of Weasleys bearing dishes covered in warming charms. "Harry!" Hermione flung her arms around him. "We've been following everything in the papers. It's absolutely incredible what's happening at the ministry." "Mate, you should see Dad," Ron added, brushing soot from his clothes. "Got promoted to head of Muggleworthy Excuses Committee with a proper staff and everything. Nearly fainted when Bones called him in." Mrs. Weasley bustled over, enveloping Harry in a rib-crushing hug. "You're still too thin, dear. Good thing I've brought lunch." She turned to Sirius. "Kitchen through here. The counters need clearing. Fred, George, make yourselves useful instead of plotting whatever mischief I can see brewing." The twins snapped mock salutes. "Yes, General Mother." Within minutes, the grim kitchen transformed into a scene of cheerful chaos. Mrs. Weasley directed food preparation like a conductor with an orchestra, while Mr. Weasley peppered Sirius with questions about that fascinating motorbike he used to own. Ginny, Ron's younger sister who would be starting Hogwarts in September, watched Harry with wide eyes but quickly looked away whenever he glanced in her direction. "She's been talking about you all summer," Ron muttered. "Got a proper hero worship thing going after all those prophet articles." Harry felt his face heat up again. "That's weird." "Tell me about it," Ron agreed. "Anyway, you've got bigger news. Dad says tomorrow's hearing is going to be massive, international press and everything." "Great," Harry groaned. "More cameras." Hermione pulled out a folder packed with parchment. "I've been researching precedents for the compensation hearing. The largest settlement was for Elphias McKinnon in 1842, falsely imprisoned for 3 years and awarded 500,000 galleons plus properties seized during his arrest. Trust Hermione to have done homework for a court case that isn't even hers," Ron said with a mixture of exasperation and admiration. "Knowledge is power, Ronald," Hermione sniffed. "Besides, the ministry will try to lowball the settlement. They're already in financial trouble with all these cases coming forward." Speaking of cases, Harry said quietly, pulling his friends aside while the adults chatted, there's something else we need to talk about. Quirrell and the stone. He filled them in on his concerns that Voldemort might still be trying to find a way to return, especially with the Ministry in chaos and attention focused elsewhere. You think he's still out there? Ron whispered, looking alarmed. Dumbledore seemed certain of it, Harry confirmed. And if he's desperate enough to possess someone like Quirrell, who knows what he might try next? We should add this to our research list for the school year, Hermione said thoughtfully. Ways to detect possession, methods of spirit containment, historical cases of disembodied dark wizards. Only you would turn evil wizard might return into a study project, Ron said, but without malice. Their conversation was interrupted by Mrs. Weasley announcing lunch was ready. As they gathered around the expanded table, Harry felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer heat. This was what family felt like, noisy, chaotic, supportive, and present. After years with the Dursleys, the contrast couldn't be more stark. The next morning, Harry found himself adjusting his formal robes in front of a mirror while Sirius paced nervously behind him. You look fine, Sirius assured him, though he was checking his own appearance for the 5th time. Dignified but not stuffy. Perfect for telling the Ministry where they can stick their belated justice. I thought we were going for gracious victory, Harry reminded him, fighting with a particularly stubborn lock of hair. That's the public face, Sirius winked. Privately, we know they're only doing this because they got caught with their pants down. Remus appeared in the doorway, looking more polished than usual in borrowed robes. Carriage is here. Enchanted Ministry 1, completely secure and press can't see inside. The black carriage whisked them through London to the Ministry's visitor entrance, where Amelia Bones herself waited to escort them. Mr. Potter, Mr. Black, she greeted them formally. Quite a crowd gathered inside. The international delegations were particularly insistent on witnessing today's proceedings. International delegations? Harry asked as they entered the lift. The French, Germans, and Scandinavian ministries have sent representatives, Bones explained. Your revelations sparked reviews of their own post-war justice processes. They're calling it the Potter precedent now, the idea that even expedient wartime actions must eventually face scrutiny. Hear that, Harry? Sirius nudged him. You're a precedent. Just what every 12-year-old dreams of becoming, Harry replied dryly. The courtroom was indeed packed. The full Wisengamot sat in their plum-colored robes, while the public galleries overflowed with reporters, foreign dignitaries, and ordinary citizens lucky enough to secure seats. Harry spotted the Weasleys and Hermione sitting near the front, alongside Hogwarts professors including McGonagall and, surprisingly, Snape. Dumbledore presided from the Chief Warlock's seat, resplendent in star-patterned robes that somehow managed to look both ridiculous and imposing. Hearing for the final determination in the case of Sirius Orion Black, Dumbledore announced, his voice magically amplified. This proceeding will formalize the preliminary findings of innocence and address matters of record expungement and compensation. The evidence presentation was largely ceremonial, everyone knew the outcome already. Pettigrew's capture and confession had been front-page news for weeks. Still, Harry found himself holding his breath as the Wisengamot members raised their wands to vote. Lumos spells illuminated the chamber as every single member voted for full exoneration. Dumbledore looked genuinely moved as he announced the unanimous decision. Sirius Orion Black, you are hereby declared innocent of all charges previously filed against you. Your record shall be completely expunged, your family properties and vaults returned to your control, and your right to carry a wand fully restored. Sirius stood tall, his face a careful mask of dignity though Harry could see the sheen of tears in his eyes. Furthermore, Dumbledore continued, this body recognizes the severe miscarriage of justice in your case. As the first act of the newly established Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Committee, we award you the sum of 2 million galleons, to be paid from Ministry emergency funds. A murmur ran through the crowd. The amount was unprecedented, 4 times the previous record. Additionally, Dumbledore added, the Ministry extends its formal apology for the suffering caused by this failure of justice, and acknowledges your right to pursue civil claims against specific individuals involved in your detention. Sirius stepped forward. Chief Warlock, members of the Wizengamot, I accept your verdict and compensation. As for civil claims. He paused, glancing at Harry. I believe the systemic reforms already underway will better serve justice than personal vendettas. I have no desire to spend more of my life in courtrooms. I only wish to move forward, with my godson. The gallery erupted in applause. Even some Wizengamot members joined in, clearly relieved by Sirius's gracious statement. As the formal proceedings concluded, Dumbledore approached them privately. Sirius, Harry, a moment, if you would. They followed him to a small antechamber away from the press. First, my sincere congratulations, Sirius, Dumbledore said warmly. A long overdue vindication. Thank you, Albus, Sirius replied, his formal demeanor softening slightly. Though I think we both know this day wouldn't have come without Harry. Dumbledore nodded, turning to Harry with a mixture of pride and something else, concern. Indeed. You have accomplished something remarkable, Harry. Something few adults would have had the courage to pursue. Sir, Harry said, getting straight to the point, what's happening with the Philosopher's Stone? Is it safe? Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Direct as always. Yes, the stone is secure. After consulting with Nicholas Flamel, we have decided to destroy it. Destroy it? Sirius repeated, shocked. But the Flamels have enough elixir stored to set their affairs in order, Dumbledore explained. They agree it's too dangerous to preserve, especially with Voldemort still seeking a means of return. So you believe he's still out there too, Harry said quietly. I'm afraid so. When he fled Quirrell's body, he was weakened but not destroyed. Which brings me to a more immediate concern. Dumbledore's expression grew grave. The revelations you've brought to light have done tremendous good, Harry, but they've also created a period of instability. Instability that Voldemort's remaining supporters might exploit. You mean Lucius Malfoy and his cronies, Sirius said bluntly. Among others, Dumbledore agreed. I've received reports of unusual gatherings, old alliances being rekindled. Those who escaped justice through claims of being under the Imperius curse are particularly nervous about the ongoing investigations. Good, Harry said firmly. They should be nervous. Perhaps, Dumbledore acknowledged. But nervous people can be dangerous, especially those with wealth and influence. I must ask you both to exercise caution in the coming months. After Dumbledore departed, they faced the waiting press. Cameras flashed and questions flew from all directions as Harry and Sirius stood on the Ministry steps. Mr. Black. How does it feel to be officially exonerated? Harry. What's next in your campaign for justice? Will you be pursuing claims against former Minister Fudge? Sirius raised a hand for quiet. Today marks the end of a painful chapter for me personally, but it's just the beginning of a larger process for our society. The Potter precedent, as some are calling it, reminds us that expedient injustice will eventually face the light of day. He placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. I'm grateful to my godson for his courage, and to Acting Minister Bones for her commitment to setting things right. Will you be taking custody of Harry Potter now? A reporter called out. I already have, Sirius replied with a smile. The guardianship transfer was completed last week. Harry and I are officially family, as his parents always intended. More questions followed, but Harry barely heard them. Family. It was still such a new concept, one he was only beginning to truly understand. Not just living with someone who didn't hate him, but belonging with someone who actually wanted him. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with the usual start-of-term chaos, but this year felt different. Parents and students stared and whispered as Harry and Sirius made their way through the crowd. Not the usual, boy who lived, attention, but something new, respect mixed with curiosity. Ignore them, Sirius advised quietly. They'll find something new to gossip about soon enough. They found the Weasleys near the middle of the platform. Mrs. Weasley fussed over Ron's trunk while the twins plotted something with Lee Jordan that involved suspicious-looking packages. "Harry." Mr. Weasley greeted him warmly. "Ready for your second year? Should be calmer than the summer, at least." "I hope so," Harry replied, though he wasn't entirely convinced. Something about Dumbledore's warning nagged at him. Ginny Weasley stood slightly apart, clutching a worn trunk and looking both excited and terrified for her first journey to Hogwarts. "First time's always the scariest," Harry said kindly, remembering his own anxiety the previous year. She blushed crimson but managed a small, "thanks." As the final boarding call sounded, Sirius pulled Harry into a tight hug. "Write often, even if nothing exciting is happening. And remember what we talked about, keep your eyes open but your head down. Let the adults handle the ministry cleanup." "I'll try," Harry promised, though they both knew trouble had a way of finding him regardless. "That's all I ask," Sirius replied with a knowing smile. "Oh, and I've packed something special in your trunk. James would want you to have it this year." Harry raised an eyebrow questioningly, but Sirius just winked. "You'll know it when you see it." The train ride started normally enough. Harry, Ron, and Hermione secured a compartment and were soon joined by Neville Longbottom, who had followed the summer's events with particular interest. "Gran says your mum was friends with my parents," Neville said shyly. "She kept all the Prophet articles about the investigations." "I didn't know that," Harry replied, realizing how little he still knew about his parents' lives. "The Longbottoms were prominent in the resistance against you-know-who," Hermione explained. "They were attacked after his fall by Death Eaters looking for information." Neville nodded, his round face unusually solemn. "They're in St. Mungo's now. They don't recognize me when I visit." An uncomfortable silence fell. Harry hadn't known this about Neville's parents and felt a surge of kinship with the quiet boy. They'd both lost their parents to Voldemort's evil, just in different ways. "I'm sorry, Neville," he said simply. The moment was broken when their compartment door slid open to reveal Draco Malfoy, flanked as usual by Crabbe and Goyle. "Well, if it isn't St. Potter," Malfoy drawled, though his usual confidence seemed diminished. "Enjoyed your summer of destroying families' reputations?" Harry met his gaze steadily. "Families destroyed their own reputations when they supported Voldemort, Malfoy." Everyone except Hermione flinched at the name. "My father says you've made a serious mistake," Malfoy continued, his voice lowered. "People won't forget how you've targeted respected purebloods." "Is that a threat?" Ron asked, half rising from his seat. "Just friendly advice," Malfoy replied with a thin smile. "Things are changing, Potter. Your little justice crusade won't protect you forever." He departed before Harry could respond, leaving an uneasy atmosphere behind him. What was that about? Neville wondered. "Malfoy's dad is under investigation," Ron explained. "Harry's mum left evidence linking him to bribes and cover-ups. He's not taking it well." "It's more than that," Harry said slowly. "Dumbledore mentioned something about old alliances reforming. I think Lucius Malfoy is organizing Voldemort's former supporters." Hermione looked troubled. "That would make sense. With the ministry in transition and focused on internal cleaning, it's the perfect time for them to regroup." "Should we tell someone?" Neville asked anxiously. "Dumbledore already knows," Harry assured him. "And Sirius is working with some former Order members to keep watch. We just need to stay alert." The remainder of the journey passed uneventfully, though Harry noticed more students stopping by their compartment than usual, some to congratulate him on the ministry reforms, others clearly fishing for gossip about Sirius and the compensations. When they finally reached Hogsmeade Station, Hagrid was waiting with his usual call for first years. He gave Harry a thumbs up and a broad wink as they passed. The welcome feast felt like coming home. Despite everything that had happened, Hogwarts remained a constant, the enchanted ceiling reflecting a starry night, the nervous first years filing in for sorting, the magnificent spread of food appearing on golden plates. Harry watched with particular interest as Ginny Weasley was sorted into Gryffindor, joining her brothers at their table. She looked simultaneously relieved and overwhelmed. Dumbledore's start-of-term announcements included the introduction of a new defense against the dark arts teacher, a Professor Lockhart, who stood with an exaggerated bow and dazzling smile that made several older girls sigh dreamily. "That's Gilderoy Lockhart," Hermione whispered excitedly. "He's written nearly the entire book list for this year. He's done amazing things, defeated a banshee, trapped a werewolf, banished a ghoul. If you believe his books," Ron muttered skeptically. Later that night, as Harry unpacked in the Gryffindor dormitory, he discovered what Sirius had meant about something special. Hidden beneath his clothes was a sleek, brand-new Nimbus 2001 broomstick with a note attached. "Harry, James would want you properly equipped for Quidditch this year. This just hit the market, fastest model available. Use it to continue the Potter legacy of making Slytherin weep on the pitch. All my love, Sirius P.S. The other package contains something even more valuable that once belonged to your father. Use it wisely, or unwisely, James certainly did." The second package revealed a shimmering cloak that seemed to flow like water. Harry recognized it immediately as his father's invisibility cloak, which Dumbledore had returned to him the previous Christmas. But now it came with a proper explanation of its significance from Sirius, along with what he called, the Marauder's Guide to Creative Applications of Invisibility. Harry fell asleep that night with a smile on his face, his father's cloak folded carefully beside his bed and his godfather's letter tucked under his pillow. The first weeks of term established new routines. Classes resumed with their usual mix of fascination and frustration. Professor Lockhart proved to be less impressive than his book suggested. His first lesson devolved into chaos when he released Cornish pixies into the classroom and couldn't control them. "Complete fraud," Ron declared afterward. "Did you see how he ran to his office when those pixies started attacking?" "His books are still informative," Hermione defended, though with less conviction than before. Harry found himself unexpectedly busy with more than just schoolwork. Students from all houses sought him out for advice on family members who might have been unjustly treated by the ministry. The Potter precedent had given many people hope that old wrongs could be corrected. "It's like you're running a legal clinic," Hermione observed as Harry jotted down details about a seventh-year Ravenclaw's uncle who'd been denied a werewolf employment appeal. "I just listen and pass the information to Sirius," Harry shrugged. "He has connections with the new review committee." "Still," Ron said, "it's changing how people see you. Not just the boy who lived anymore, but someone who actually stands up for people." This new perception wasn't universally positive. Some Slytherins whose families were under investigation made their resentment clear. Potions classes became particularly tense, with Snape seemingly torn between his usual disdain for Harry and reluctant acknowledgement of Lily Potter's posthumous impact. "Your mother," Snape remarked unexpectedly one day after Harry successfully brewed a swelling solution, "had a similar precision with proportions. A rare quality." He swept away before Harry could respond, leaving him stunned by what might have been the closest thing to a compliment Snape had ever given him. October arrived with driving rain and the first signs that something wasn't right at Hogwarts. Students reported odd noises in the walls, like something large moving within the castle itself. Nearly Headless Nick mentioned that the other ghosts seemed disturbed by a presence they couldn't identify. "Probably just Peeves being more annoying than usual," Ron suggested, but Harry wasn't convinced. His concerns deepened after the Halloween feast, when they discovered ominous writing on a second-floor corridor wall: "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Hanging beside the message was Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, stiff as a board but apparently not dead. "Petrified," Dumbledore announced after examining her. "But not dead. Most curious." The school erupted with theories and rumors. Hermione dove into research about the Chamber of Secrets, eventually sharing what she'd found in Hogwarts, a history. It's supposedly a hidden chamber Salazar Slytherin built before leaving the school. Legend says it contains a monster that only Slytherin's true heir can control, a monster meant to purge the school of those Slytherin considered unworthy to study magic. Muggle-borns, Harry said grimly. Exactly, Hermione confirmed, looking worried. And with everything happening at the Ministry, the timing seems suspicious. Harry wrote to Sirius immediately, describing the incident and his concerns. The reply came swiftly, Harry, this is deeply troubling. The chamber was rumored to have been opened once before, about 50 years ago. A student died, and the school nearly closed. I've spoken with Remus and some other former Order members. We're researching what happened then and who might be responsible now. In the meantime, stay alert but don't investigate alone. If this is connected to what Dumbledore warned us about, Voldemort's supporters becoming more active, it could be extremely dangerous. I'm meeting with Dumbledore tomorrow to discuss additional protections for the school. We'll update you after. Stay safe, Sirius. Despite Sirius's warning, Harry couldn't help investigating. Together with Ron and Hermione, he began tracking the incidents that followed, more petrifications, more threatening messages. They discovered that all victims had one thing in common: they were either Muggle-born students or connected to Muggle rites, like Filch's cat, as Filch was a squib, and nearly headless Nick. It has to be someone in Slytherin, Ron insisted after Colin Creevey, a first-year Gryffindor with a camera permanently attached to his face, was found petrified. Who else would care about purging Muggle-borns? We shouldn't assume, Hermione cautioned, though she looked increasingly frightened as more Muggle-borns were targeted. Their breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Moaning Myrtle, the ghost who haunted the second-floor girls' bathroom, revealed during a chance encounter that she had been the student who died 50 years ago. It happened right here, she said, pointing to her favorite toilet stall. I saw big yellow eyes, and then I died. Yellow eyes? Harry repeated. Just eyes? Not a person or creature. Just eyes, Myrtle confirmed. By that sink that never works. The sink, they discovered, had a tiny snake etched into one of the copper taps. Acting on instinct, Harry tried speaking to it in Parseltongue, a ability he discovered he possessed during a disastrous dueling club meeting where he'd accidentally revealed this rare skill. To their astonishment, the sink receded into the floor, revealing a large pipe descending into darkness. We should get a professor, Hermione said immediately. Lockhart's office is closest, Ron suggested. For whatever that's worth. They found Lockhart packing, clearly preparing to flee the castle. When confronted, he admitted that his books were fraudulent. He'd stolen other wizards' accomplishments and modified their memories to take credit. You're leaving? Harry said incredulously. When the school's in danger? Well, urgent call, unavoidable, Lockhart babbled nervously. Got to go? I don't think so, Harry said, drawing his wand. You're coming with us to the chamber. Even if you're useless in a fight, you can at least be a shield. At one point, they marched Lockhart to Myrtle's bathroom and down into the chamber. The passage led deep beneath the school to an ornate door emblazoned with serpents, which opened to Harry's Parseltongue command. The chamber itself was vast and dimly lit, with towering stone pillars carved with serpents and a massive statue of Salazar Slytherin dominating the far wall. In the center of the floor lay a small, motionless figure with flaming red hair. Ginny! Ron shouted, rushing forward. Is she? She's alive, came a soft voice from the shadows. But only just. A tall, handsome boy of about 16 emerged, twirling Ginny's wand between his fingers. Something about him seemed oddly insubstantial, like he wasn't fully present. Who are you? Harry demanded, keeping his wand trained on the stranger. Tom Riddle, the boy replied with a slight smile. But you might know me better by another name. He used Ginny's wand to trace flaming letters in the air. Tom Marvolo Riddle with a wave, the letters rearranged themselves. I am Lord Voldemort, you, Harry breathed, pieces clicking into place. You opened the chamber 50 years ago too. Very good, Harry Potter, Riddle said approvingly. Yes, I preserved my 16-year-old self in a diary. He gestured to a small black book lying beside Ginny. When dear Ginny began writing in it, pouring out her soul to me, I was able to pour a little of my soul back into her. Enough to use her to open the chamber again and continue Salazar's noble work. You're killing her, Harry realized, noticing how pale Ginny looked. Draining her life to become more solid yourself. Precisely. Soon, I'll be fully restored, and Ginny Weasley will be dead. A small sacrifice to ensure Lord Voldemort's return. During this exchange, Lockhart had attempted to seize Ron's wand and escape. The resulting scuffle ended with Lockhart's botched memory charm backfiring, causing a cave-in that separated Harry from Ron and the now amnesiac professor. Go for help. Harry shouted through the rock pile. Get Dumbledore. Alone with Riddle and the fading Ginny, Harry felt fear gripping his chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sirius had warned him not to investigate alone, and now Ginny might pay the price for his recklessness. You won't succeed, Harry said, playing for time. Dumbledore will stop you, just like last time. Riddle laughed coldly. Dumbledore has been driven from the castle by the mere memory of me. The old fool never proved I opened the chamber 50 years ago, and he won't stop me now. He turned toward the statue of Slytherin. Let's match the power of Lord Voldemort, heir of Slytherin, against the famous Harry Potter. In Parseltongue, Riddle commanded, Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four. The statue's mouth opened, and Harry heard something massive stirring within. He shut his eyes immediately, remembering Myrtle's fate, death by looking into yellow eyes. The basilisk, Riddle announced proudly. King of Serpents. Its gaze kills instantly, its venom dissolves all in its path. Even spiders flee before it. Harry backed away blindly, listening for the serpent's movements. The massive body slithered onto the chamber floor with a sound like a heavy tree trunk being dragged across stone. Kill him, Riddle commanded in Parseltongue. Harry ran, eyes still tightly closed, guided only by the echoes of the chamber and the terrifying sounds of the basilisk pursuing him. He tripped, falling hard against a pillar, and his glasses went flying. As he scrambled to his feet, a new sound filled the chamber, music, hauntingly beautiful and somehow encouraging. Harry risked opening his eyes just enough to see a blurry crimson shape descending from above, Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, carrying something in its talons. The phoenix dropped its burden at Harry's feet, the Sorting Hat. As Harry grabbed it in confusion, something heavy fell into his hand through the hat's fabric, a gleaming silver sword with rubies set in its hilt. Fawkes, meanwhile, attacked the basilisk, gouging out its deadly eyes with his sharp talons. The serpent thrashed in pain, now blinded but still lethal. No! Riddle screamed. Leave the bird. Get the boy. You can still smell him. The basilisk lunged blindly toward Harry, who raised the sword with shaking hands. As the massive jaws opened to strike, Harry thrust the blade upward with all his strength, driving it through the roof of the serpent's mouth and into its brain. The basilisk collapsed, dead, but not before one of its fangs sank deep into Harry's arm. Searing pain spread as the venom entered his bloodstream. Pulling the fang free, Harry staggered back toward Ginny, knowing he had minutes at most before the venom killed him. Riddle watched with cruel amusement. You're dying, Potter. Even Dumbledore's bird knows it. He's crying. Indeed, Fawkes had landed beside Harry, thick pearly tears falling onto his wound. But instead of the weakness Riddle expected, Harry felt the pain receding, the wound closing. Phoenix tears, Riddle snarled, realizing what was happening. Healing powers. I forgot. With sudden clarity, Harry knew what he had to do. Grabbing the basilisk fang, he plunged it directly into the heart of Riddle's diary. Ink spurted like blood as Riddle screamed, a long, terrible shriek of pain and rage. His form twisted and dissolved, and then he was gone. Ginny stirred, color returning to her cheeks as Riddle's hold on her life force broke. Harry, she whispered, sitting up groggily. Then, seeing the dead basilisk and the bloody sword, she began to cry. "It was me. But I didn't mean to, Riddle made me, I know," Harry assured her gently. "It wasn't your fault. The diary possessed you." Fawkes led them back through the chamber, carrying them up the pipe with his remarkable strength. They found Ron clearing a pathway through the rockfall and Lockhart sitting vacantly, humming to himself with no memory of who or where he was. In Dumbledore's office, they found not only the headmaster but also Sirius, who had apparently arrived just as news of Ginny's disappearance spread. The relief on his godfather's face quickly turned to a mixture of pride and exasperation as Harry recounted what had happened. "A basilisk," Sirius muttered, shaking his head. "And Diary Voldemort. Just when I thought this year might be less eventful than the last." "The diary is most disturbing," Dumbledore said gravely, examining the ruined book. "Tom Riddle's diary, preserved for 50 years with a piece of his 16-year-old self inside it. This is very dark magic indeed." "Who gave it to Ginny?" Harry asked. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, who had arrived partway through Harry's explanation, looked at each other in horror. "Diagon Alley," Mr. Weasley said slowly. "Remember that scuffle with Lucius Malfoy at Flourish and Blots? He picked up Ginny's old Transfiguration book. And must have slipped the diary inside it," Sirius finished grimly. "Which means this wasn't random, it was a deliberate attack, probably aimed at discrediting your family, Arthur, given your recent promotion and Muggle protection efforts." "But how did Lucius Malfoy get Voldemort's diary?" Harry wondered. "Voldemort entrusted some of his most valued possessions to his closest followers before his fall," Dumbledore explained. "It seems Mr. Malfoy decided to use this particular item to further his own agenda, perhaps unaware of its full capabilities." The implications settled heavily on the room. Lucius Malfoy had deliberately attempted to unleash Voldemort's memory within Hogwarts, endangering countless students, especially Muggleborns like Hermione. "This will need to be handled carefully," Dumbledore said, seeing the anger building in Sirius's expression. "We have no direct proof of Mr. Malfoy's involvement, only circumstantial evidence. But we can't just let him get away with it." Harry protested. "We won't," Sirius promised. "But Dumbledore's right, we need to be smart about this. Lucius still has powerful allies despite the ministry reforms. A direct accusation without proof would play into his hands." Later that night, as the petrified victims recovered thanks to Professor Sprout's Mandrake restorative draft, Harry and Sirius walked the grounds together. Sirius had insisted on staying at Hogwarts overnight, unwilling to leave until he was certain Harry was truly safe. "You know what makes me proudest?" Sirius said unexpectedly as they paused by the lake. "Not that you defeated a basilisk, though that's pretty impressive, but that your first instinct was to save Ginny." Harry shrugged uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Sirius corrected gently. "They wouldn't. Your father would have, and your mother. But that kind of courage, rushing into danger to save someone else, that's rare, Harry." "I was scared the whole time," Harry admitted. "That's what makes it brave," Sirius replied. "Being scared but doing the right thing anyway." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the giant squid's tentacles lazily break the surface of the moonlit lake. "What happens now?" Harry finally asked. "With Malfoy, the ministry, all of it." Sirius sighed. "The ministry situation is stabilizing. Bones is doing an excellent job as acting minister, the Wisengamot will likely confirm her permanent appointment next month. The compensation reviews are proceeding, and most of the wrongfully imprisoned have been released. But Malfoy and his circle are regrouping, just as Dumbledore warned. This chamber incident proves they're willing to take drastic steps, even endangering children, to push back against the reforms. And Voldemort is still out there," Harry added quietly. "Yes. The diary confirms what Dumbledore suspected, Voldemort found ways to preserve himself beyond normal magic. He's still trying to return to power." Harry kicked a stone into the water, watching the ripples spread. So my mother's evidence helped fix the ministry, but we still have Voldemort and his supporters to deal with. One battle at a time, Sirius reminded him. What we've accomplished this year is extraordinary, Harry. Don't lose sight of that because the larger war continues. As they walked back to the castle, Harry reflected on everything that had happened since finding his mother's letter just under a year ago. Sirius freed, corrupt officials exposed, wrongful imprisonments corrected, and now a piece of Voldemort himself destroyed. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was progress. I've been thinking, Sirius said as they reached the entrance hall. About where we should live permanently. Grimmauld Place is secure but depressing, and the Devon cottage is too exposed. What about Potter properties? Harry suggested. There were deeds in the vault. Sirius nodded thoughtfully. Your parents had a cottage in Godric's Hollow, of course, but it's half destroyed and too public now. There's also Potter Manor in Yorkshire. It's been closed up since your grandparents died, but with some work. A manor? Harry asked, surprised. I have a manor. Sirius laughed at his expression. The Potters are an old family, Harry. Not ostentatiously wealthy like the Malfoys, but comfortable. The manor isn't enormous, but it's beautiful, set in the countryside with its own Quidditch pitch. Your dad and I spent summers there during school holidays. The thought of living in his family's ancestral home, a place where his father had grown up, filled Harry with a warmth he couldn't quite describe. Can we see it this summer? First thing, Sirius promised. We'll open it up, air it out, and make it home again. The end of term arrived with a feast celebrating the chamber's closure and the recovery of the petrified students. Hermione's return from the hospital wing was met with cheers from the Gryffindor table, especially when she learned how Harry and Ron had solved the mystery in her absence. A basilisk, she exclaimed, half horrified, half impressed. That explains everything, the petrifications instead of deaths because no one looked directly into its eyes, the spiders fleeing the castle, the roosters being killed because their cry is fatal to it. We couldn't have figured it out without your research, Harry assured her. Even petrified, you helped solve the case. Examinations were cancelled as a school treat, oh no. Hermione had wailed, to everyone else's amusement, and Gryffindor won the House Cup for the second year running. The final days passed in a haze of sunshine and relief, with students recovering from the year's tensions. On the Hogwarts Express journey home, their compartment had a steady stream of visitors, students thanking Harry for ending the chamber threat, members of the newly formed Justice Society updating him on their families' compensation cases, and even a few Slytherins offering discreet respect. You've really changed things, Neville observed quietly. Not just at the ministry, but here too. People from different houses are actually working together on these justice projects. It's a start, Harry agreed. But there's still so much to do. As the train pulled into King's Cross, Harry spotted Sirius waiting on the platform, standing out among the crowd in his elegant but slightly unconventional wizarding attire. Unlike the Dursleys, who had always looked annoyed at having to collect him, Sirius was scanning the windows eagerly, breaking into a broad smile when he spotted Harry. Ready for summer? Sirius asked as Harry jumped down from the train. More than ready, Harry confirmed. What's first on the agenda? Well, Sirius said casually as they walked toward the exit, Remus is meeting us at Potter Manor tomorrow to help with the reopening. Then we have an appointment at Gringotts to review your family holdings properly. After that. He grinned mischievously. How do you feel about a trip to the Quidditch World Cup qualifying match next week? Bulgaria versus Ireland. I happen to have top box tickets. Seriously? Harry exclaimed, then laughed at his own pun. That sounds amazing. As they passed through the barrier to the Muggle world, Harry felt a profound sense of contentment. For the first time in his life, he was going home to family, real family. The road ahead still held challenges, Voldemort's eventual return, Lucius Malfoy's machinations, and the ongoing work of reforming the wizarding world. But he wouldn't face these challenges alone. Justice for Sirius had been just the beginning. His mother's evidence had sparked changes that would continue to reshape their world for years to come. And Harry, once a voiceless orphan trapped in a cupboard under the stairs, had found not only his voice but the power to use it for those who couldn't speak for themselves. The boy who lived had become something more, a symbol of justice, a catalyst for change, and, most importantly to Harry himself, a boy with a proper home and family at last. Home, then? Sirius asked, offering his arm for sidelong apparition. Harry took it without hesitation, feeling the familiar squeeze of magical transportation. When they reappeared on a country lane bordered by ancient oaks, a stone manor house visible in the distance, Harry knew he had finally found what he'd been seeking all his life. Home, he agreed, as they walked together toward his inheritance, his legacy, and his future. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.